Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Senate Government Affairs. We are going to go ahead and get right into our meeting today after roll call. We have several people who are jumping in and out of meetings today. And so if you'll call the roll, we'll try to get ourselves started. Thank you.
Vice Chair Orenshaw. Senator Goycochea.
I'm here.
Senator Neal.
Here.
Senator Hansen.
Here.
Chair Dondero Loop.
Here. Thank you very much. And we have a quorum. And we're going to go slightly out of order today because, as I mentioned, we have several people who are in and out of meetings. And so we sort of have to take everybody as they are available. And so we're going to start with Senate Bill 368 today, which is on behalf of the Legislative Committee for the Review and Oversight of the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency and the Marlette Lake Water System. And we welcome Assemblywoman Peters to Senate Government Affairs, and we're happy to see you. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Dondero Loop. It's great to see you and committee members. For the record, I'm Sarah Peters, representing Assembly District 24 in Reno. I'm here today to present Senate Bill 368, which authorizes the issuance of bonds for environmental improvement projects in the Lake Tahoe Basin. This bill was drafted upon recommendation of the Interim Legislative Committee for the Review and Oversight of the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency and the Marlette Lake Water System. I had the honor of serving as vice chair of the committee during the 2019-2020 interim. During the interim, the committee members learned a great deal about the necessity and success of the Lake Tahoe Environmental Improvement Program, EIP for short, projects in in restoring watersheds and improving lake clarity. The EIP is a program whereby numerous agencies in Nevada and California collaborate to implement these critical environmental restoration projects. At our final meeting, the committee voted unanimously to request the drafting of this bill to authorize the issuance of not more than $4 million of the $100 million in general obligation bonds authorized in 2009 to continue to implement Nevada's portion of the Lake Tahoe EIP for the 2021 to 2023 biennium. With ever-increasing threats from climate change and growing pressures on the basin from tourism and development, the passing of this bill is critical to continue the necessary work to save Lake Tahoe. I am joined in this presentation by Charles Donahue, Administrator, Division of State Lands, and State Land Registrar, State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. I hope the committee will excuse my brevity, but I am scheduled to present two other Tahoe Interim Committee bills in the Senate Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, which is also meeting right now. With the chair's permission, I will turn the presentation over to Mr. Donahue and leave the committee in his capable hands to provide more information about Senate Bill 368 and answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions from the committee? Oh my goodness, they're a quiet group today. Senator Neal?
I thought are we asking questions to Assemblywoman Peters? Then I'll, yeah, okay.
Charlie Donahue is here. And
I'm sorry, Assemblywoman. I am so sorry. Mr. Donahue, I think I missed that whole sentence.
No worries. If it's okay with you, I'm going to pass it off to him, and I believe he has a couple of statements to make about the bill as well.
Okay, I apologize again, Mr. Donahue. I missed that whole memo. So please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Charlie Donahue, and I serve as the Administrator of the Division of State Lands. It's a pleasure to present Senate Bill 368 with Assemblywoman Peters this afternoon. Senate Bill 368 provides for the issuance of $4 million in general obligation bond authority for the continuation of the Lake Tahoe Environmental Improvement Program, commonly referred to as the EIP. I would like to thank the Lake Tahoe Interim Committee for sponsoring this important legislation. The Division of State Lands has been the lead coordinating agency for the Nevada share of the EIP since 1999. Nevada's participation in the EIP continues to be a success. The EIP is well-coordinated partnership with amongst the federal, state, local agencies, the Washoe tribe, and the private sector. The partnership carries out projects to protect and improve the Lake Tahoe environment and has become a national model for collaborative leadership. Nevada is a key member whose commitment to the EIP has funded in excess of 160 projects in focus areas of watersheds, habitat and water quality, forest management, and recreation. The EIP is the primary program to achieve environmental gains in the Lake Tahoe Basin. A significant amount of this work is coordinated through the Nevada Tahoe Resource Team. The state team assembled to carry out this program with representatives from the Division of State Lands, Division of State Parks, Division of Forestry, and the Department of Wildlife. The team implements projects directly as well as awards grants to EIP partnering agencies. Recent project highlights include the award of 2 water quality and erosion control grants. The first grant is to Washoe County for a project in Incline Village, and the second is a grant to the Nevada Tahoe Conservation District for a project at Marla Bay in Douglas County. These are critical capital infrastructure projects that capture stormwater and treat fine sediment particles that are known to impact the lake's clarity. These projects are implemented in coordination with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, the RPA, and the Division of Environmental Protection, NDEP, to contribute to the region's clarity goals. These 2 projects are estimated to be in excess of $3 million. Spooner Lakefront Country Phase 1 is a recreational enhancement project located at Spooner Unit of the Lake Tahoe, Nevada State Park. The project includes construction of a visitor center, amphitheater, and an entrance road realignment. The contract was recently awarded in March, and construction is scheduled to break ground on May 1. The award for this project was approximately $3.2 million, including a generous gift from the Tahoe Fund of $300,000 specifically for the amphitheater development. Phase 2 of this project is currently under design, and dedicated funding will bring this to 100% design. Park amenities in this phase will include additional trails, comfort station upgrades, picnic nodes, and a non-motorized boat launch at Spooner Lake proper. EIP bonds also fund forest restoration projects to improve ecosystem health and function to protect the Nevada State Park from catastrophic wildfire. NDSL recently secured approximately $250,000 in federal appropriations from the United States Forest Service for the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act to support fuels reduction treatments and an 85-acre fuel break on state land. The team has been successful over the years in securing Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act, or SNPLMA funds, to complement EIP bonds in restoring the forest landscape to a more resilient condition throughout the state park. In this way, the team leverages bonds as well as other funding sources to get our work done. As the agency has done in many of the previous legislative sessions since the start of the EIP, the Division of State Lands is requesting bonding authority for the next round of Nevada's projects. Specifically, Senate Bill 368 authorizes a sale of $4 million in general obligation bonds for the continuation of EIP projects in the Lake Tahoe Basin. The activities listed in Senate Bill 368 will continue to focus on the main areas of improving water quality infrastructure, continued forest health improvements to reduce the risk of wildfire, improve habitat, and improve state-owned recreational facilities at Lake Tahoe. In addition to improving the Lake Tahoe environment, these are active capital improvement projects which contribute to a strong local economy. I would also like the committee to know that this request is in the governor's CIP budget. Passage of Senate Bill 368 allows the state to build upon the success of our past projects and continuing moving forward with our EIP partners in protecting and restoring the Lake Tahoe Basin. Madam Chair and committee members, with those brief comments, I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Donahue. And again, apologies for missing that sentence. Questions from the committee. Now, Senator Neal, are you ready?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I get what's going on, but I guess what the thing that I'm struggling with is, number one, I feel like it's piecemealed, and then you got 8 million, authority to do 8 million in 2019. You're back asking for an additional 4, right? And so, and I know you did a list of things, but I guess what I'm trying to understand is what really took place within the 2 years with the 8 million, and why a project wasn't completed with the 8 million. Because what you mentioned was, when you get the money from the state, which is nominal in the scheme of things, you're then able to leverage that money or more money, and then you add it with other grants. And so it's only been 2 years, and then there was a pandemic. So what I guess I'm trying to figure out what didn't get completed and why with the initial 8 million from 2019.
Thank you for the question, Senator Neal. Charlie Donahue for the record. It was determined that the agency had too many bonds that were unexpended. So the 8 million that was authorized in 2019 was not sold. We currently have a project list for this next biennium, in addition to the awards that I just mentioned to you, with a need of $11.8 million. So the 8 million from the 2019 session plus this 4 would hit that sweet spot of right around, well, $12 million. And those $12 million are also authorized within the governor's CIP budget.
Okay, so just quick follow-up. So you said that you weren't able to use the 8 because there was still bonding authority that had been unexpended. Was that bonding authority from the prior 2 years before?
Thank you very much for the question, Senator Neal. Yes, the bonding authority that was still on the books, and we actually have committed right now, is from the 2017 session. And then there was a sale in 2018.
Okay, and how much was the sale in 2018?
It was approximately $4 million. And we currently have a little over $6 million in authority that is being held in a custodial account by the Treasurer's Office. And those funds are what has enabled us to award those grants to both Washoe County and Douglas County for stormwater infrastructure improvements.
And then in I have struggled saying it too, Simplima money, how much did you get in 2017 and 2019?
Madam Chair, for the record, Charlie Donahue, Senator Neal, thank you very much for the question. We didn't receive any SNPLMA money from 2017 or 2019. The funds that we still have remaining for SNPLMA are from prior to that time, and they've actually been reserved for pile burning disposal of piles where we've treated in the state park as well as our urban lots. But as a result of poor burning conditions, we actually haven't been able to use that until actually just this past week, but we're using bond funds in the state park for that. I just wanted the committee, excuse me, sorry to cut you off, ma'am. I just wanted the committee to know that we tried to do our best to maximize multiple different funding sources to complete the work we are engaged in up in the basin.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask you something, and then I want you to correct me as I say it. So you still have $6 million in the account from 2017 that is unused, and then you had the $8 million from 2019 that was allocated, and now you're asking for an additional 4 but really you need 11.8 million, right?
Madam Chair, if I may, Charlie Donahue for the record, Senator Neal, the little bit that we have, a little over $6 million has been obligated. What we've had discussions with the Governor's Finance Office as well as the Treasurer's Office that these projects that are this significant, the local jurisdictions aren't going to go out, let a contract for a consultant to do design and planning work or award a contract unless they know they have the securities from the state and an award and that we actually have the funds to reimburse them. So the funds that we have are in the custodial account at the Treasurer's Office are for the most part obligated. And they're done through awards to local jurisdictions or contracts that we have on the books. The request for this $4 million would be to couple that with the $8 million authority that we received from 2019, and then work with the Treasurer's Office over the biennium to sell that $12 million so that we can move forward with the identified $11.8 million in terms of project needs over this biennium.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, I'll leave it there. I mean, I have a couple more questions, but I'll leave it there for everybody else.
Okay, well, you might get lucky if there's not another question, but I'm guessing Senator Hansen will jump right in there. Thank you.
I'm actually more confused now than when we started. No, Senator Neal, Charlie, I must say that I think in all the time I've been in the legislature, you're the first guy that's ever shown up and said you actually had too much money in your accounts and they said you couldn't get any more. If you have too much money available for bonding. So I have to laugh. I've never heard that before, if I heard it correct. No, the question I have from that exchange, afterwards I'll talk to Senator Neal and see the math on it, because I've got about 15 different numbers here that I can't get straight. The question I got is, what have you guys done since 2017? It sounds like you haven't done any projects hardly. I mean, you got anything where you actually spent some money?
Yeah, thank you. Madam Chair, Charlie Donahue for the record. Thank you very much for the question, Senator Hansen. Yes, we actually have expended quite a bit of money. Actually, one of the projects that we completed was the forest restoration landscape resiliency project, which was in excess of over $1 million helicopter aerial operation that received Best in the Basin award just this past year. Those are actually the remnants of those piles are what we're burning up there at Schooner Lake today, and started that last week. The reason that the GFO and Treasurer's Office were reluctant to move forward with bond sales of the $8 million in authority from 2019, as I indicated, is because they felt we had too much money on the books and could not meet the 3-year time period. I think we've demonstrated to them that we can do that with the money that they're holding for us in the custodial accounts. One of the things I'd like to point out is that twice a year, the EIP reports to the IFC with a progress and status report. And one of the things that I have emphasized with my Tahoe program manager, and this is pre-pandemic, is that we had a pretty good track record of expending approximately $4 to $4.5 million for all the different project areas on an annual basis. That really did drop off in terms of project delivery, project design for some of our larger projects. And we're anticipating, throwing our best effort at this in terms of delivering a higher dollar value expenditure over these next 2 years.
Okay. Well, thanks, Charlie. I appreciate your comments. One last question. I know you guys don't have authority over the Tahoe Forest for the most part. That's U.S. Forest Service. But I got to put on the record, I'm scared to death that we're going to have a Paradise Fires type situation. And you drive around Incline Village or anywhere along the Nevada side of the lake, those forests are thick. There's tons of built up fuel. lots and lots of, trees that have been killed by pine beetle barks or whatever, or pine beetles that get in there. And I would say 1 out of 10 trees up there is dead. I mean, it's got giant fire written all over it. And so I just want to say to you to make sure when you talk to your Forest Service people, man, I hope somebody gets on that pretty quick, because every year it just gets worse and worse. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Additional questions from the committee? I'm trying to scan the group here. Senator Neal, I know you had a second question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just have one. So I just wanted to ask about the selling of the 12 million. And I guess this is more curiosity. What is the instrument that he's going to be using to sell that? Do you know?
Madam Chair, Charlie Donahue for the record. Thank you for the question, Senator Neal. I'm not 100% sure what you mean by the instrument, but
when he's going to have there's always like a security or a way that he goes about leveraging or selling from the treasurer's perspective. So I was wondering, how, the process that he uses in order to get you more money. That make it?
Sure, Madam Chair, for the record, Charlie Donahue. Thank you for the question, Assembly Neal. Typically, it's my understanding that the Treasurer's Office in the past has packaged the EIP bonds with capital improvement program bonds so that there's a larger offering, and these are general obligation bonds.
Okay, thanks. That's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Additional questions from the committee? Senator Goicoechea, nothing? Okay, just checking
No,
on
thank you. I've learned a long time ago you can spend a lot of money in.
True story. True story. Mr. Donahue, could you kind of just review what the priorities are again? You don't have to go over everything, but just sort of give me that overview again.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Madam Chair. Our priorities are really working with the local jurisdictions who have identified water quality and erosion control projects. These are projects that address stormwater and the fine sediments that are known to impact Lake Tahoe's clarity. The local jurisdictions, Washoe County and Douglas County, are working very closely with NDEP to address the lake's total maximum daily load, TMDLs, which they've been working on now for about 6 to 8 years. Priorities would be to take Senator Hansen's comments to heart and continue to address our forest restoration projects and needs within the state park in the basin. And there are two really critical recreational projects that Division of State Parks has identified, and that's the 2 phases of the Spooner Front Country project, as well as then working with California State Parks and the California Tahoe Conservancy to elevate the infrastructure and address the needs that are needed down in the Van Sickle unit of the state park, which is down behind the casino corridor on the South Shore.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Additional questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Donahue, for all your expertise. And we will move to support broadcasting when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support of SB 368, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 732, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello, my name is Kyle Davis, KYLEDAVIS. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Kyle Davis, and I appear today on behalf of the League to Save Lake Tahoe and the Nevada Conservation League. We are here today in support of SB 368. There's a letter on Nellis from the Lake Tahoe Partnership, of which the League to Save Lake Tahoe is a member, so I will be brief. These bonds have been a crucial part of the environmental improvement program, and you've heard about some of the projects that have been funded in the past. We strongly encourage the committee's support for this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
If you've recently just joined us, we are currently in support of SB 368. To testify in support, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you very much. Then we'll go to opposition.
To testify in opposition of SB 368, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, to testify in opposition of SB 368, please press star 9 now. Chair, you have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll go to neutral.
To testify neutral on SB 368, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, to testify neutral on SB 368, please press star 9 now. Sir, you have no callers neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. Then with that, Mr. Donahue, do you have anything you want to give as parting words to us?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. Just wanted to thank you and the other committee members for the opportunity to present with Assemblywoman Peters, SB 368, and I request your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Donahue, and we appreciate your time today. So with that, I'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 368, and we'll see who we have in the queue. In the meantime, there's one alteration to our agenda. We will not be hearing Senate Bill 286 today, so I need either Senator Spearman or myself when Senator Orenshaw is here. Broadcasting, can you help me out? See who's here. Is Senator Spearman ready?
Sure thing, Chair. No, unfortunately, Senator Spearman has not joined our Zoom call yet, and we do not have any legislative sponsors outside of this committee.
Okay, do we have Vice Chair Orenshaw ready? Or is he at a committee also?
His camera's blocked out. He's not responding. I think he might have gone to Growth and Infrastructure.
Okay. All right. We will have just a few minutes worth of recess. Committee, we'll just kind of have to wait for this to all wind back around so that we have some folks.
Senator Spearman said she's leaving Growth.
Okay.
Our way over.
Okay, perfect. And Senator Neal, if when we're done with Senator Spearman, if Vice Chair Orenshaw isn't back, we'll hand the gavel to you and I'll do my bill. Oops.
Chair, we have Senator Spearman joined us.
Great. Welcome, Senator Spearman. We're happy to see you for lots of reasons. So when you're ready, please go ahead and I'll open the hearing on Senate Bill 297.
Hey, thank you, Madam Chair. The good part about being virtual is instead of sliding around the halls trying to get from one room to the other, it's a matter of disconnecting from one meeting and clicking on a link.
So true. So true.
I was in growth and infrastructure, and I thought I was third. So please forgive my tardiness. Good afternoon, Chair Dondero Loop and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 297. For the record, I am Pat Spearman. I represent Senate District 1 in Clark County. Before I explain the content of Senate Bill 297, I would like to give you some background information as to why I requested this important legislation. Food insecurity is a devastating challenge for our communities of color and low-wealth families. Community gardens are a tremendous tool to help combat food deserts and food insecurity, as well as urban blight. One of the most significant obstacles for potential community gardens or urban farm projects is access to land. Senate Bill 297 provides an opportunity for community groups and municipalities to collaborate and turn neglected or blighted lots in Nevada into productive community gardens. And Madam Chair and committee members, I'm speaking specifically, and I think all of us have seen it, those vacant lots that only grow cigarette butts, broken bottles, and things of that nature. So that's part of the blighted lots that we're talking about. Community gardens and urban farms are transformative ways to provide communities access to healthy and affordable food and encourage participation in outdoor activities and the adoption of healthier eating habits. I know for the last 4 sessions, Senator Woodhouse brought a bill. It was Senate Bill last session. It was Senate Bill 178. And it was a bill that was, designed to create a task force to examine food insecurity. We also know that last session, then Assemblyman, now Commissioner William McCurdy, brought a bill as well. It was AB 326 that was designed to provide incentives for retail stores to relocate into communities that had food deserts in them. So those 2 things, one of them happened almost, and the other one, Senator McCurdy's bill, still has not taken on. And we know that this has been going on for a very long time. Food deserts is not anything that is surprising to anyone, I don't believe, under the sound of my voice. So this is one way to deal with that. To deal with that for the communities. It's for the communities and by the communities, and it is an opportunity for them to also elevate the type of nutrition that they put in their bodies. And we know that good nutrition also translates into healthy bodies. And for so many people in these food deserts, if they can't make it to the store that's a mile away, then their way of getting food is either to the 7-Eleven or to the gas station. And nothing against those. But we're talking about providing people an opportunity to have fresh fruits and vegetables. If it pleases the chair, I will now walk the committee through the sections of the bill. Section 1 on page 6 of the bill adds the requirement that a city or a county master plan include in its urban agricultural element a plan to inventory other real property to determine suitability for urban farming and gardening. And the other urban property that I'm speaking of is, I know in many cities, to include those in the Washoe and Clark County, there are abandoned big box stores. And nothing's happening with it except graffiti, maybe some broken windows. Again, it's growing cigarette butts and broken bottles, et cetera. So that's some of the other real property that we're talking about. And Madam Chair, before I go any further, let me say this. There are some things in the bill that will be amended out. I had a meeting with some of the members, some people representing the counties and some municipalities, and we talked about an amendment. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to get it done before this meeting, but we will have amendments to this. Section 2 on page 7 of the bill requires the Council on Food Security to research and develop recommendations on community gardens and urban farms, which must include examinations of local and regional efforts to develop community gardens and urban farms, regulatory and policy barriers to the development of community gardens and urban farms, and the potential effects of community gardens and urban farms on economic development in the state, and make recommendations to promote the use of community gardens and urban farms, strengthen local infrastructure for community gardens and urban farms, promote entrepreneurial efforts to develop community gardens and urban farms. Then Section 3 of the bill authorizes a board of county commissioners to approve a property tax credit equal to 10% of the property taxes on a parcel if the owner intends to allow the property to be used as a community garden or urban farm, and agrees to the operation of the community garden or urban farm for at least 5 years. Sections 4 and 5 authorize a city or a county to use vacant or blighted land or other real property owned by them for urban farms, as well as community gardens. Sections 6, 7, and 8 include provisions authorizing the state land registrar to lease state lands at less than fair market value for use as community gardens and urban farms. Sections 9 and 10 authorize the director of the Department of Transportation to lease certain unused property for use as a community garden and urban farms for only $1 per year. We have several people on the line, Madam Chair, that I would like to help me with this presentation. I believe we have Kelly on the line. And if she can, if it's okay with you, Madam Chair, if she can begin her testimony, I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead with that broadcasting.
I'm sorry, Chair. Can you repeat the name again?
Senator Spearman, would you repeat the name again, please?
Yes, I have Kelly and Rebecca, and there are a couple of other people from Kara Freeman from the Dietitians Corporate. So
I see Kara Freeman.
Okay, let Kara go first then. Okay.
Good afternoon, Senator Don Darrell Lube and committee. My name is Dr. Kara Freeman, and I am the state policy representative for the Nevada Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. We do support SB 297 and the establishment of community gardens. The relationship between nutrition, food, and health is well documented. For example, we know that children who do not eat cannot learn. Often children do not get enough food at home. On the other side of the scale, we see that close to 70% of the American population is overweight or obese. Health risks are extremely high in this population, including risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and hypertension. Low-income, underserved communities are the highest risk for developing obesity. The lack of supermarkets and/or the prohibitive cost of purchasing fresh food is a compounding problem. According to the 2020-2025 USDA Dietary Guidelines for Americans, 90% of the U.S. population do not meet the recommendations for vegetable intake, and 80% do not meet the recommendations for food intake. Healthy People 2030, issued by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, has specified nutrition targets that include reducing household food insecurity and hunger and increasing fruit and vegetable consumption. To support what Senator Spearman said, community gardens have been shown to improve access to healthy food by encouraging communities to grow their own fruits and vegetables. Civic participation is a social determinant of health as outlined in Healthy People 2030, and community gardening is provided as an specific example of civic participation. Green space adds property value to neighborhoods by beautifying the spaces, and individuals who are involved in community gardening may form a sense of neighborhood pride, experience an increased appreciation for their neighborhood, and be more motivated to get involved in community life. Community gardens also increase access to healthy foods. The California Healthy Cities and Community Project found that West Hollywood students with school community gardens increase their fruit and vegetable consumption by 10%, which is a significant amount. These gardens can provide an opportunity for communities to get together with their neighbors, gives them a chance to get outside and get some physical exercise by working outside in the garden. And of course, they provide fresh fruit and vegetables grown by themselves and available to eat. We have also seen that children who have grown vegetables in school-based gardens tend to try the food they grow, and often they take that food home and show their parents how to prepare it as well. As a past college instructor, I was always amazed, even though I probably shouldn't have been, by the number of foods who thought that food comes from McDonald's. To me, one of the best things about gardening is tasting the fresh produce. Somehow, tomatoes grown in my garden have abundantly more flavor than the store-bought ones. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. And Senator Spearman, please.
Yes, ma'am. There's another presenter, Lindsay Langsdale.
Okay. Lindsay Langsdale, please go ahead when you're ready.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lindsay Langsdale. I am currently the board president and the farm manager of Reno Food Systems. We are a nonprofit organization. We're working to create resilient, interconnected food systems in our community. We operate a variety of programs, everything from farm education, regenerative agriculture, food security, nutrition education, and we all do this from our 5-acre urban farm in West Reno. I was asked to present today in support of Senate Bill 297. I'm very happy to do this. This is something that's very passionate for me. Preserving urban, open, and agricultural spaces is something that I spent the majority of my adult life doing. I'm happy to be here. I'd like to spend my few minutes today here talking about a few urban ag projects that I've spearheaded here in Reno to illustrate the importance of this bill. So I'm going to share my screen right now. All right. So this first project I want to show you here is Lost City Farm. It's a farm that I started in downtown Reno. And a friend and I, in 2012, we decided to start this urban farm. Our first step was to ride our bikes around downtown Reno looking for a suitable property for our farm. Our stipulations were that the property needed to be at least a half an acre. It needed to be in a food desert, walkable and bikeable on a bus line so everybody could access it, and not majorly contaminated as some urban properties are. This is a property like Senator Spearman was talking about. It was growing plenty of cigarette butts, hypodermic needles, whatever you could imagine was there. At that time in 2012, we found 10 suitable properties. They were all privately owned, and we approached the landowners about the project. And just as a side note, today, all 10 of those properties that we identified as being a really great urban farm, they have all been developed at this point. And not only developed, they've been crammed with multi-story, multi-unit residences. None of the development have worked to address the fact that these are urban food deserts, and cramming more people has just compounded the problem of food insecurity in these areas. So if we don't do something now to protect open space in urban areas, it will all be gone, and food insecurity will just get worse. So we ended up finding this property here, Lost City Farm. It's right downtown, right by the library in Reno, and we had that property there for 3 years. And when we first leased that property, the property values were very low in this neighborhood. The owners were happy to lease it to us for $1 a month. They just were happy to have somebody on the property taking care of it. But as we built up the farm, the interest in this area increased. Our project increased the appeal of that neighborhood, coupled with changing real estate market. Within 3 years, the value of that property skyrocketed, and we were kicked off so it could be developed. And in conversations with that private landowner, we were desperately trying to convince him of the benefits of letting us stay. And what was so frustrating is that he agreed with us. He said, yes, having a farm here is much better for the community, it's much better for the planet, but this is business, and I'm going to kick you off and build a storage unit complex here anyways. So I don't think that it's hard to make the case for the importance of urban ag, the importance of having green spaces in urban areas, the importance of the availability of fresh produce in food deserts. People know this, they agree, but what is hard is to go beyond that lip service and for action to be taken in support of these things. So The incentives that are included in this bill for landowners to support are really important and a really great addition to this bill. To speak a bit about municipal properties here in Reno, this is really where we have an opportunity to be leaders in this movement. We have a lot of open space owned by the city and the county that would be great for urban farms and gardens. This picture here is our 5-acre farm at Reno Food Systems. We're on county land. It has been deed restricted and cannot be sold or developed. It has to stay open space and be used for agriculture. This is the last vestiges of what was a 6,000-acre ranch, and the last owner of that ranch had the foresight to protect it by gifting it to county parks. And we built this farm here as a demonstration of what can be done on public land, and I'm really encouraged to see the actions set forth in this bill that support what we have been working so hard for years to demonstrate. So with both of these projects, this is Reno Food Systems now. With both of these projects, I've had to navigate myself through really unknown systems, through a lot of red tape. I really had to fight to make these things happen. Small groups like Reno Food Systems were 6 people trying to make this big project happen in unknown waters. And with Lost City Farm, I ended up writing the city's first and only urban ag ordinance to allow for a farm in a multi-use zone. This didn't exist before, and it was necessary in order for us to do the project, but there was no history for it. So the city planners didn't know how to do this, so I ended up writing it, and the city adopted it. And the same with Reno Food Systems. We scoured public parks. We approached the county, presented to the county to create a partnership to start to look at how we can turn underutilized county parkland into productive community ag projects. So what this bill is doing, it's proposing to have a system in place that does a lot of that heavy lifting, and it would cut down a ton of the barriers to entry and make creating community food projects much more accessible, much easier for people to approach and for people to be successful with. As a person who's navigated these really tricky waters, seeing something like this is really encouraging and would make such a difference to this these kind of projects. So that is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Cool projects. Thank you. Senator Spearman, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for those who are familiar with Las Vegas, we have a community garden there. It's operated by a lady by the name of Roz, and she's had it there, I want to say, for maybe about 8 or 9 years. Great way to not only grow food, but also to teach. And so that's one of the things that we were looking at as we develop this legislation, opportunities to teach students about agriculture. You know, we've lost a lot in our society now. We kind of walked away from farming and things of that nature, but this is a really good opportunity to get them interested in it again. And I just want to comment on something that Lindsay said, turning what could be a really good garden into a multi-million-dollar or multi-$100,000 development. In many other communities of color, there are blocks of neighborhoods that have suffered benign neglect over several decades. And the property values go down so low that eventually someone who is a developer can come in and buy the property very cheaply. Unfortunately, what also happens at that time is that people who have lived there all of their lives, and some people whose homes have been in their family for 4 generations, called gentrification, because they will build something that someone who is making upwards to $100,000 can afford, but the people who have lived in that area for all that time cannot afford it. And I've seen this happen in city after city after city. So this is another way for us to do that. I want to comment just a little bit, and then I'll open up for questions. During this pandemic, I know most of you probably saw that food banks were overwhelmed. Lines and lines of cars. I have a friend of mine who's a city council member in Houston, and she was saying the need was greater than the resources, and they were looking around at ways to kind of stretch what they have. Food banks are good, and they serve a good purpose. Unfortunately, many of them do not have enough of the fresh fruits and vegetables to go around to the people who need to have this as part of their diet. And so the urban farm and the community gardens provides another way for us to assist a community organization that's trying to help people with food insecurity. And so with that, Madam Chair, I will stop and take questions.
Thank you very much, Senator Spearman. Interesting project. Questions from the committee, Senator Hansen.
Yeah. Well, before I forget, let me just say this. I've got two notes here. So the city of Las Vegas has already started on an urban farm, and I did have an opportunity to talk with one of our former colleagues, Commissioner McCurdy, and he's ecstatic. He couldn't come to testify because he had a previous commitment, but I think I think those two things speak volumes about how and why we should get this done.
Thank you. Go ahead, Senator Hansen.
Thank you. The bill sounds really good, actually. I'm quite intrigued by it. Couple of questions. How in those areas where you're trying to do it, currently your cigarette butts and broken bottles places, how do you protect it once you do have somebody attempting to garden there? And question two, you mentioned fruits. Are there any efforts to actually encourage planting of trees? Because obviously trees are where you get fruit. So I'm just wondering if there's also an effort to try to encourage people on their little plots to plant fruit trees.
Yes, sir. Madam Chair, through you to Senator Hansen. Yes, there are plans to do that. When we talk about community gardens and urban farms, we're talking about everything across the board, whatever we can get done on those lands. In terms of encouraging people, and this is one of the areas where we're going to, add an amendment to clarify exactly what we want to do. Someone who has land and wants to say, well, I'll give it to you so that you can provide, you can do an urban farm. A community garden. I think a lot of us know that many times when we give people a rebate or a tax abatement up front, very seldom do they do what they said they were going to do. And so part of the legislation includes a clawback provision. If they don't say what they're going to do, then whatever abatements that they got within that period, all of that would be due at that time with interest. Cities and counties, the bill also, I want to say it was Section 4, but the bill also gives cities and counties an opportunity to create zoning that accommodates that. So if there's another way to do it, if there are more better ways to do it or something we can add to that, I'm open for that. I just want to make sure that it works.
Well, thank you, Senator. I agree with the whole concept. I especially agree with the idea that, as we become increasingly urbanized, we're really completely out of touch with where food comes from, whether it's animals or plants. It's one of the enjoyable things about being somewhat of a rural guy is I still get a lot of that in my own district, but there's no question that a lot of folks just don't realize what it takes to get all that food that they see in the supermarket, where it actually comes from. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Additional questions? Senator Neal, please go ahead.
Thank you. So I'll work backwards. Well, no, I won't. So on Section 3, it was the line 14. It's in Section 3.2a. It's the 10%, the property tax credit. So is this 10% every year for 5 years?
Did you say Section 3.2a?
Yeah, I believe it's line 14. Let me go back.
Yes, ma'am. I'm moving between two screens.
I see that Section 3.2a looks to me like it's the list of the board.
Yeah, no, it's sub 4. It's not 2A.
Okay, 36, line 36.
Yeah, line 36.
So thank you, Madam Chair, through you to Senator Neal. And that's what I was talking about with respect to the abatement. Whatever the government, whether it's city or county, decides will be the tax abatement for that term. If they don't do what they said they were going to do, then there are clawback provisions in it. But this is something that's open to negotiation through the city or the county, whoever is going to sponsor the community garden or the urban farm.
Okay. And then, Madam Chair, a follow-up. So I know you mentioned blight, but I don't see what in the chapters you have 244 and 268, which is, city, county, city, but I don't see like an RDA, like a redevelopment area. And so is this going to create a tax increment district? Is that the idea? Because typically that's the way that a county or a city can I guess you would say, create a tax incentive within that boundary, and then whatever revenue from it is driven from that space and from those boundaries. But I'm just trying to understand, I know you're working on amendments with them, so I want to know, what are the counties and cities saying? Are they talking about they're going to create a tax increment district? They're going to roll it into a tax increment district? They're going to put it in their redevelopment area to serve the blight language that you have?
So thank you, Madam Chair, through you to Senator Neal. When they established the ordinance, they establish how they want to do that according to whatever fits them. The elements of this bill are not prescriptive from the standpoint of you have to do your ordinance just like this. And I think we heard Lindsay, and you can correct me, Lindsay, if I got it wrong, but I think she said she wrote the ordinance for the city of Reno. One of the things that we're asking cities and counties to do is to set aside, whenever they're talking about redevelopment or development or new development, set aside some space in that project for a community garden or an urban farm. So how they do it within their ordinance is strictly up to them. And we did it like that because I know a lot of times, we put things into law and it doesn't fit everybody. And so that was one of the things that I said when I met with them earlier today. We want to make it work for cities and counties, because if it doesn't, then it won't work and it won't do us any good to pass this legislation. So we want to make it work for them.
Yeah, I like the idea. I know what's going on down south, and I know that it fits into AB 385, which was former Assemblyman McCurdy's bill to try to do urban ag. And I do think that there's a provision in there that allows you to work with a cooperative extension, which I know we haven't had a chance to really round up on that and really connect cooperative extension down south with Dr. Lyles with the urban ag, because they're literally growing. You can get these little, it's like, they call them like little micro greens in a cup. And so he's doing a lot with the hydroponics and all of these other things that will probably come into play when you're talking about, having a kind of solar run area and trying to grow things within an area that are, pretty much a desert. So
thank you for that observation. And you are correct. I know for at least 3 sessions in this body, we've talked about something similar to this, or some way to create food security for low wealth communities. And we've passed legislation to do it, but we don't act on it. And so as I was thinking about this, there were several people that I wanted to talk to, and I did talk with Commissioner McCurdy. What he put in place with 385, what he put in place with the past AB 326, and what Senator Woodhouse did with the perennial. It wasn't 178 all the time, but last session it was Senate Bill 178. All of those are good ideas, but in order to make sure that we flush them out and we fulfill the intent, we have to have some type of a structure, and this is the structure that I am proposing. Is it perfect? No, it's not. But working with stakeholders, we can make it that way. We can make it that way.
So just really quick, Madam Chair, because I do think it's possible, because McCurdy's bill tied in GoEd to try to tie incentives to areas that needed assistance for his food idea. And so I don't know about allowing the county to do some tax incentives, which you have in Section 4, but I know that GoEd was tied, and it's tied to some of the boundaries that you're looking at. So that might be the starting point.
Yeah, and so we have counties in there meeting with the government stakeholders earlier today. Those who represented municipalities wanted to have their own autonomy and decide for themselves. So, the county may do something that is very general in nature, and then it provides opportunity or an infrastructure, a legal infrastructure for the towns to do it. I think that this is the start of something that will be big, not only now, but I think what it's going to do for members of these communities, it will not only provide for them a source of food that is more healthy, that is nutritious, but it also will provide jobs. It's part of economic development as well. And so all I'm trying to do with this bill is to look at the things that we've already passed and say they're just sitting there. We haven't done anything with them. And so let's try to put something together so that we can do something with them. Hope that answers your question.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to Senator Goicoechea, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator, I'm just concerned. I mean, this is fine, and I really appreciate the intention and the good it'll do, but this is going to cost money. What's the fiscal note here? Beyond, it's fine for the county to give somebody a 10% break on their property tax if they make the land available, but, it's a long ways from having, like you said, that lot covered with glass and cigarette butts to actually having it in production. And where are those dollars going to come from?
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you to Senator Goicoechea. Those dollars will come when the cities or the counties put in place their ordinances that will provide the legal structure for this. This is not them jumping up and saying, we're going to do this right now. If they can't afford to do it this year, there's no requirement for them to do it this year. What I said to them was, we want to make it work, but I also want to make sure that it is something that will not leave you fiscally bankrupt. So there's no fiscal note because there's no requirement to do it at a certain time. We want them to decide when they can do it, how long they can do it, when it will start, et cetera, all of those things. So that's really up to the level of government that decides to put that in their ordinance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you very much. Additional questions? Senator Orenshaw, Vice Chair Orenshaw, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And Senator Spearman, thank you so much for bringing this bill. I think all any of us have to do is just harken back to the first couple of months of the pandemic and all our scared constituents and the empty shelves at stores, and think how wonderful it would be if there was more urban agriculture and more locally available produce and vegetables and fruits for people to have other options and not just at those grocery stores, so that if heaven forbid something like this happens again, there'd be more options. If this bill passes, how do you see this being kind of, communicated to people to try to participate? Or do you think there might be organizations that would get active with this to try to get people involved in this? I just wonder what your thoughts are on that, Senator.
Yes, sir. Madam Chair, through you to Senator Orenshaw, and we discussed that in our stakeholders meeting. And there are people in the North and people in the South who are familiar with this concept and indeed have done some of it. And I think Senator Neal mentioned someone down South. And so getting the word out is a consequence of me, you, the nonprofits that will be a part of this, community organizations to let people know if they want to use, raise money for marketing, that's okay. But I really envision this as being a word of mouth. And I know that once we get started, the very first one that happens, and I know we have Roz in the South, and there is another, and I want to say it might be 2 community gardens up here in the Reno area. But the very first one that gets started after this bill, I believe that the news is going to take off like wildfire. So we're going to do this as judiciously as possible, but we also are mindful that we don't want to get attached to too much fiscal responsibility. And that answers your question.
It does. Thank you, Senator Spearman. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions? Well, mine were asked. So, Senator Spearman, I think everything that I was thinking about was asked. The ones up in Reno that we saw the pictures of were really amazing gardens and really an interesting project for empty land. So with that, Senator Spearman, do you have anybody else, or would you like to go to support?
We can go to support.
Okay, we will. Well, first, before we go right into support, I know that Mr. Donahue has been on the line with us, and he would like to go ahead and give his testimony, and then we'll let him go. So, Mr. Donahue, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Again, for the record, Charlie Donahue. I serve as the State Land Registrar. My comments have to do specifically with Section 6. I wasn't aware that this bill was being heard, so I don't have prepared testimony, but I am in the neutral position. I do have some questions about why the bill sponsor proposed to have this in Chapter 321, because I believe it would be more appropriate to be in 322, which is the use of state land. And within 322, there's actually even a provision, 322.065, that addresses for nonprofits and educational institutions that may be involved with the senator's testimony in the use of lands for community gardens or urban agriculture. There's a provision in that statute to have those lands used at less than fair market value. So I'd be more than happy to work with the senator on an amendment to possibly roll that concept into that provision of statute. One of the things I would like to make perfectly clear, though, is that within that statute, when it says less than fair market value, and I feel it's important to get on the record, it doesn't equate to no cost, because that's often what I am asked, to basically give it for $0 or $1. And I'd really like to work with the senator, see if we can come up with some language that might fit within that portion of statute. And then I had hoped to have a pre-meeting with her, because I'm curious as to what lands, if she's looked at the state lands portfolio, and what lands she may have identified, whether it's up north or up north or down south, or even in the rurals, the lands that might have been identified by the organizations that she's looking at, so we can get a little bit ahead of the game. And I also like to have a conversation with her about the provisions where it says businesses in Section 6 as well. Those are my neutral comments, and I really appreciate the time, Madam Chair, opening up for this to me and not having to dial in.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Donahue. Thank you for your comment. Senator Spearman, I see you.
Yes, ma'am. Through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Donahue. 21 was chosen by our legal department. I will certainly take back the suggestion that it may be more appropriate in 322. I will admit to you that I don't know that much about the law to say this chapter or that chapter, so I will certainly take your comments back. Have we already identified land? No, I have not, but there are some people who have worked to help me perfect this bill to get it to where it is right now, who have some suggestions as to what where they might look. That's not. I can't tell you what that is because that is what they're doing in their part of the state. So I anticipate once the bill passes, I really anticipate them getting in touch with you post haste. As far as I think the other one was no cost. Yeah, we know it there is some cost, so it's not free. Did I answer all your questions? And surely you can set up a time to talk with me because our deadline is Friday. I'm at an accelerated pace. If you can send me some language, I'll make sure that our legal department gets it and adds it to the conceptual amendment that I'm working on with the other cities and counties that I spoke with earlier today.
Mr. Donahue, I think you have a list of to-dos.
Yes, I do. And Madam Chair, thank you very much. Charlie Donahue for the record. I wasn't expecting responses to my comments, so I appreciate that, Senator Spearman. And we will try and draft something up here for your review and continue to work with you on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Mr. Donahue. Teamwork. Thank you. Okay, we will go to support. Broadcasting when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support of SB 297, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 124, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Aurora Calvillo Buffington, AURORA CALVILLO BUFFINGTON. Esteemed Chair and members of the Committee on Government Affairs, I'm Aurora Calvillo Buffington. I am Chair of the Southern Nevada Food Council, and I'm also a registered dietitian nutritionist and assistant professor and specialist in public health nutrition at the University of Nevada, Reno Extension in Las Vegas. The Southern Nevada Food Council supports Senate Bill 297, revising provisions relating to agriculture. The Southern Nevada Food Council seeks to secure equitable access to healthy food for all Southern Nevadans. The mission of the Council is to ensure the local food system is both equitable and sustainable through championing policy efforts in the region. The Council meets regularly to collaborate on ways the group's collective resources and expertise can be leveraged to increase food access for all residents. The Council supports efforts to increase the amount of healthy local food available to its residents. There are 32 USDA-designated food deserts in the Las Vegas metropolitan area. These food deserts are located in low-income census tracts where a significant number or share of residents is more than 1 mile from the nearest supermarket, and 17 of these tracts have high concentrations of residents without vehicles. Healthy food purchases on a tight budget are even more of a challenge when coupled with lack of access due to a store in your neighborhood or a car to bring groceries home. The Council also supports efforts to increase food literacy, which can improve diet and promote good health. Food literacy skills include food and nutrition knowledge, food skills such as food preparation, and self-efficacy and confidence. These attributes help improve the likelihood that people will make healthy food choices, especially when coupled by a supportive food environment. It is the understanding of the Council that SB 297 would incentivize the use of vacant or blighted lands for the purpose of establishing community gardens. It would also help reinforce learning and positive behaviors associated with school gardens among students by encouraging a linkage between surrounding school gardens and the community garden, increasing opportunities to build food literacy. The Council appreciates the consideration of local resident needs and desires and the emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion that is included in the bill language. Community food gardens and urban farms are a recognized intervention that can help improve healthy food access and opportunities to build community food literacy, among many other positive outcomes in a food desert. As such, the Southern Nevada Food Council supports SB 297. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 675. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Rebecca Stetson for the record, REBEKAHSTETSON. Madam Chair and Council, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak in favor of this bill. I serve on the Governor's Council for Food Security and am here today representing Farmally, a nonprofit I run that supports and runs community gardens, and also the Northern Nevada Food Security Council that I'm a founding member of. I am thankful that Spearman brought this forward, and in Reno we have multiple community gardens. Reno Food Systems has their giant garden, and we have a big urban farm downtown called Flint Street Farms, as well as I run 3 gardens through the Boys and Girls Club where we teach kids how to grow food. So anything that can continue creating opportunity at more urban gardens, there's an incredible capacity at community health that goes with it. And it's been beautiful to watch lives change with kids learning how to grow their own food and getting adults involved in tending the soil and being able to teach them how to do that, but then also to teach them how to cook it and prepare it for themselves. So we are in support of this bill, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, caller. Currently, we are on support of SB 297. To testify in support, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you very much. Then we'll go to opposition.
To testify in opposition of SB 297, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, to testify in opposition of SB 297, please press star 9 now. Chair, you have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll go to neutral.
To testify neutral on SB 297, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 863, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Dagny Stapleton, D-A-G-N-Y-S-T-A-P-L-E-T-O-N. I'm the Executive Director of NACO, the Nevada Association of Counties. And I want to start by thanking the Senator very much for her willingness to meet with us today. We reached out to her about some suggestions we have regarding the tax credit piece of the bill, Section 3, and we work with the county treasurers on some conceptual language to ensure that that portion of the bill can be carried out how the Senator is envisioning. And I know that there's a representative of the County Treasurers Association, I believe, who will provide testimony on some of those details and how we can help there. We do appreciate the goals that the Senator is trying to meet here as well as her intent, and we look forward to continuing to work with her. Also, I'd like to note that this bill is enabling for counties, as the Senator mentioned, so we appreciate the local authority to implement this based on the needs in each county. Finally, I just want to add that we appreciate Senator Neal's mention of cooperative extension, which is a university program, but funded in large part by counties and a program that counties care about very much. And absolutely, extensions horticultural, ag, and gardening programs could have a really important nexus to the projects, the urban farms and gardens that this bill is supporting. So we'd be happy to connect the senator with those folks if that's needed. Thanks again, Senator Spearman, as well as the committee for allowing me to provide comments.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits of 229. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good evening, Chair and Committee. Jamie Rodriguez, that's JamieRodriguez. I'm the Government Affairs Manager for Washoe County. I wanted to start by thanking the Senator for meeting with us and working with us on the bill. We very much so appreciate and support the intent of the legislation. I am here neutral today as we continue to work with her and the treasurers, as stated by Ms. Stapleton, wanting to make sure that we're going to be able to enact and implement the program as she is envisioning it. So look forward to continuing to work with her, appreciate her taking the time today, and look forward to moving this on. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits of 444. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good evening, and thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Rona Leckenberry, RHONA Lecumberry. I'm the Humboldt County Treasurer, but speaking on behalf of the Association of the County Treasurers of Nevada. We are neutral on this bill and want to thank Senator Spearman for meeting with us today. The provisions of SB 297 may have an impact on property taxes for participating parcels, and we look forward to working with her and her team to clarify the mechanisms needed to efficiently carry out these provisions. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits of 475. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Kelly Crompton, representing the City of Las Vegas. It's KELLYCROMPTON. I'm testifying in the neutral position today due to some technical provisions we are working on with the bill sponsor related to the implementation of SB 297. The City of Las Vegas is supportive of the concept of SB 297 and has done extensive work on urban agriculture, working closely with the Southern Nevada Food Council, University of Nevada Cooperative Extension, and other local regional stakeholders on community gardens. There is effort and support to promote equity, improve healthy food access, and remove food deserts located in downtown Las Vegas, such as those we've seen in the historic West Side. We support this measure as we are supportive of the measure as we believe it can address the challenges of food insecurity, healthy foods, and local economic growth. To the extent that there are publicly owned assets that can be provided to entities actively working to address food insecurity, access to healthy foods, and disinvestment in underserved communities, we should take every opportunity to make those assets available. We do believe the implementation decisions should be made at the local jurisdiction level and not at other levels of government, and that's why we are working with the sponsor of the bill to amend some of the language as she stated. We thank Senator Spearman for meeting with us today to discuss our concerns and look forward to working with her in the amendment process so that we can get to a support position on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits of 294. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, Callie Wilsey on behalf of the City of Reno. That's CALLIWIL, S as in Sam, EY. We appreciate Senator Spearman meeting with local governments earlier today, as several of my fellow colleagues have already mentioned, and considering the conceptual amendment that was submitted. As a part of our recently updated development code, the City of Reno allows for urban farms in every zoning district and has numerous supporting master plan policies in place that promote integration of community gardens in our neighborhoods and aim to increase the availability of and access to fresh, healthy, and local food. We support the bill sponsor's intent and goal in this legislation, and we look forward to working with her on the technical language related to implementation. Thanks for the opportunity to testify this evening.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
We are currently neutral on SB 297. To testify neutral, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no more callers neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. And with that, Senator Spearman, do you have any closing comments, please?
Just real quickly, I really the comments that everyone has made. And for those of you who I met with earlier today, I've already talked with our legal counsel, and she will be contacting you so that we can go through the amendments, the conceptual amendments that were presented, and make sure that we have everything right. The city of D.C. and the city of Pittsburgh have something much like this, and I know if they can do it, we can do it as well. All of the ideas that have come forth today, I welcome your help. I may have this idea, but I don't have all of this idea, and so collaboration will certainly be crucial. I just want to say also, and I want to comment on what Senator Hansen said. Typically, when people think about community gardens, they think urban. But I'm sure there are some spaces in some of our rural and frontier communities where this would help them as well with food, getting food security. My sister has this big container that she bought, and it's got dirt and plants and things in it. And she's grown some peppers. And one of my nieces, Gabby, had 2 of the sections where she put her seeds. And when the peppers came up, and she was able to eat, she loves hot stuff, and she was able to put it in her food. She was telling me, Aunt Pat, I grew this. And so I really think that we can look forward to more of the responses that Gabby gave from children who are discovering afresh what it means to get back into agriculture, to get back into the earth, to understand exactly how things are made or grown, and also make sure that they have nutritional food. Thank you for hearing this, and we'll get it together and hopefully have something ready for a few work session that we hope to have it done before then. Okay, thank you all, and thank you all for commenting. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Spearman. And with that, I'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 297. I think we have everybody here right this minute. Before somebody else has to leave to go to another meeting, I'd like to do work session before we do the last bill. Vice Chair Orenshaw, are you still here, or did you have to go to another meeting? Great. Perfect. All right. We have all accounted for. Okay. We're going to jump to work session. So when we get there, I'll ask Ms. Keller to walk us through. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Elisa Keller, Committee Policy Analyst. The work session document for the bills for consideration today are available on Nellis. And the first bill for the committee's consideration is Senate Bill 110, revises provisions relating to businesses engaged in the development of emerging technologies. This bill is sponsored by Senator Spearman and was heard by this committee on April 5th. Senate Bill 110 creates the Emerging Technologies Task Force within the Department of Business and Industry and prescribes its membership. The bill requires the task force to develop strategies and make recommendations regarding attracting businesses that are engaged in developing or emerging technologies and encouraging the growth of such businesses. The bill also authorizes the director of the department to create an opportunity center for emerging technology businesses. After the hearing, Senator Spearman proposed a conceptual amendment, which is included in the work session document. The amendment provides that the task force includes one member who is a representative of the Nevada System of Higher Education, appointed by the Board of Regents, one member who is a teacher at a Title I school in a large school district, appointed by an organization that represents licensed educational personnel within the school district, one member who is a representative of K-12 education, appointed by the Nevada State Education Association, and one member appointed by the director who has experience as a consumer advocate. The amendment also provides that the appointing authorities for the task force shall coordinate to ensure that the members represent the diversity of the state and include persons with behavioral health conditions and persons who have served in the military. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Are there any questions from the committee? Senator Gocochea, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just curious, because this is the new task force and meets quarterly, what is the fiscal note on this? Did I come through?
You did. I was just waiting for Ms. Keller.
There is a fiscal note available on Nellis from the Department of Business and Industry showing zero fiscal impact. Wait, I'm sorry. I take that back. From the Department of Business and Industry showing an effect on the future biennia of $45,681.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Additional questions on Senate Bill 110?
So, Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
I'm going to vote yes, but reserve my right to change.
Okay.
All right.
Additional questions? Senator Gocochea and then Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, if this is going to be referred to finance, I can vote yes for it. Otherwise, I am concerned about it and will be voting no. I guess if the motion is amend, do pass, and refer to finance, I can vote for it.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I cannot give you that 100% right this minute, but I understand your reservations. Senator Hansen, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I normally comment after we've done the actual attempt to get this thing rolling, but might as well say it now. I'm a no. I think the very fact that they talk about blockchain in it shows that this, in my mind, is a taxpayer-funded government subsidy for a billionaire, and I think that's wrong. And I think that it's a mistake going down this road. I'm not against the increasing businesses, but I really starting to resent the fact that we have people that are literally billionaires who are constantly turning to the government to come up with ways to cut their own costs. So I'm a no, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Additional questions? Senator or Vice Chair Orenshaw, please.
Thank you, Chair Dondero Loop. Not a question, but if you accept a motion, I'd like to make a motion just to amend and do pass.
All right, thank you very much. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Thank you, Senator Neal. I have a motion and I have a second. Discussion on the motion? If not, will the Secretary please do the roll call vote? Oh, Senator Gocochea, do you have a comment?
Is that motion to amend and do pass and refer or not?
Senator Orenshaw, would you please restate?
Thank you, Chair. My motion is just amend and do pass, and then whatever would happen after that would happen on the floor.
Thank you very much. Seeing no more discussion, will you please take the roll call?
Vice Chair Orenshaw?
Yes.
Senator Gocochea?
No.
Senator Neal?
Yes.
Senator Hansen?
No.
Chair Dondero Loop?
Yes. Thank you very much. And with that, the motion carries, and I'll sign the floor statement to Senator Spearman. Ms. Keller, will you please walk us through the next bill?
Thank you. Elisa Keller, Committee Policy Analyst. The next bill for consideration is Senate Bill 138, revises provisions relating to planned development and sponsored by Senators Lang and Pickard and others. It was heard by this committee on March 17th. Senate Bill 138 provides that a city or county is not prohibited from enacting an ordinance for a planned unit development that is consistent with the general statutory requirements related to planning and zoning. It also sets forth certain requirements for an ordinance for a planned unit development. At the hearing, the City of Henderson proposed a conceptual amendment, and subsequent to the hearing, the City of Henderson proposed a revised conceptual amendment, which is included in the work session document. The proposed amendment includes changes that are summarized on the work session document. And would the chair like me to walk through the summary? It is also my understanding that representatives from the City of Henderson are available.
I think that is important, Ms. Keller, and if you would walk through the amendment, and then I'm sure Vice Chair Orenshall and myself and others may have some questions. Okay. In Section 2, it removes changes to NRS 278A.080. In Section 3, requires that an ordinance set forth procedures by which a city or county will review a process for an application to modify, remove, or release any provision of the plan in compliance with NRS 278A.410. Section 4 retains and inserts language to provide that if the ordinance requires both tentative and final approval of the plan, the reservation must, as far as practicable, defer the precise location of the common open space until an application for final approval is filed so that flexibility of development, which is a prime objective of this chapter, can be maintained. In sections 5 and 6, the amendment replaces may with must regarding several standards for planned unit development established by ordinance. In sections 10 and 11, adds finally regarding an approved plan. In section 13, provides that upon application of a landowner to modify, remove, or release the provisions of a plan that does not include any residential development and is not modified to add any residential development, a city or county may approve the modification, removal, or release without a public hearing if the city or county determines that such modification, removal, or release is minor in nature as defined by the ordinance and does not necessitate a vacation or abandonment of any street, public sidewalk, pedestrian right-of-way, or drainage easement. In section 14, the amendment provides that if the ordinance requires both tentative and final approval, the city or county shall comply with the procedures set forth in this chapter for granting tentative approval and final administrative approval of the plan. In section 16, the amendment provides the filing fee for an application must be set forth in the ordinance or published and made publicly available by the city or county. Section 19 makes various changes regarding the grant or denial of approval by minute action and provides that a grant or denial must include in what respect the plan is or is not consistent with the city or county's master plan adopted pursuant to NRS 278.150. In section 20, provides that tentative approval of a plan does not qualify a plat of the planned unit development for recording or authorized development or the issuance of any building permits. A plan which has been given tentative approval as submitted, or which has been given tentative approval with conditions which have been accepted by the landowner, may not be modified, revoked, or otherwise impaired by action of the city or county pending application for final approval without the consent of the landowner. Impairment by action of the city or county is not stayed if an application for final approval has not been filed, or in the case of development over a period of years, applications for approval of the several parts have not been filed within the time specified in the minutes granting tentative approval, and provides that prior to recordation of the plan,
or prior to final approval, if the city or county ordinance requires both tentative and final approvals, approval of a plan may be revoked. Finally, Section 21 of the amendment provides that pending completion of the planned unit development or of the part that has been finally approved, no modification of the provisions of the plan or any part finally approved may be made, nor may it be impaired by any act of the city or county, except with the consent of the landowners affected by the modification and in compliance with NRS 278A.410.
Thank you very much, Ms. Keller. And I know that was a lot to read, but I thought that was important to get that all out. And Vice Chair Orenshaw, would you like to go ahead, please? Any questions?
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate Senator Lang's hard work, all the representatives of the city of Henderson on trying to bring all the stakeholders in. I guess one question I have, the new language in Section 13, the changes to NRS 278A.410, the proposed new language in the amendment, I just wonder if maybe the folks of the city of Henderson or anybody else who care to could just explain what the practical effect would be of that proposed change.
Broadcasting, do we have anybody in the queue that can answer?
Yes, Madam. Apologies, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. David Cherry, for the record, Government Affairs Manager for the City of Henderson. And I'm joined by my colleague, Michael Tassi, who is the Director of Community Development and Services for the City of Henderson. And it's a pleasure to be here to answer questions before the committee today on SB 138, and we appreciate the opportunity to do so. Regarding Vice Chair Orenshaw's question, we believe that the effect of the language in Section 13 serves as a limitation on how the minor modification provision could be used if a city or county chooses to enact an ordinance that would allow for the minor modification. Specifically, at the request of stakeholders, there were two limitations that were put in there. The first has to do with whether or not there would be a proposed minor modification if a plan has either residential development or proposes to add residential development. So, for instance, new housing. In that case, it would not qualify under the amendment for the ability for the minor modification process to be utilized in that case. So it serves as a limitation. Second, we've also put a limitation in there that if there is a move to use this process and there is a vacation or abandonment of an easement, a sidewalk, or two other categories, that again, this would not be allowed to be qualified for use of the minor modification provision that's proposed in the amendment. So we feel that that really limits how the amendment would apply in situations where you have residential housing or in situations where you have specific actions involving a vacation or abandonment of an easement.
Thank you, Mr. Cherry. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Additional questions on this from committee members? I have one, Mr. Cherry, and I do thank Senator Lang as well. When you say we feel it limits, that sounds a little open-ended to me.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I do apologize. That was my choice of wording. I can tell you that we have confidence that it in fact serves as a limitation on that. We would invite, obviously, LCB Legal or your counsel to opine on this. Also, I'd be happy to let Mr. Tassi speak to it. He is also somebody who deals as our Director of Community Development frequently with NRS 278A and the planned unit development process. So I would invite you, Michael, if you want to give your kind of a little bit of more information on this question to answer the chair.
Thank you. And for the record, Michael Tassi, and thank you for the question. And I agree with what David said. We're confident that this will limit the minor modification procedure to just non-residential development, non-residential development within planned unit developments. We specifically carved out those two areas at the request of our stakeholders that we involved in this discussion and wanted to limit it to non-residential, and we believe the language does that.
And if I may, Chair, just to expand upon that, a major modification would not qualify under any circumstance. So really what we've done is we've drawn a very narrow circle here. And I think it's important for the committee to realize that in doing so, we've really limited this application to commercial types of modifications and really tried to leave out residential. I shouldn't say tried to. We've left out residential. It's very clear in the wording in the statute in that section 13 prohibition. And the same when it comes to the 4 areas that are specific to the vacation or abandonment. It's street, public sidewalk, pedestrian right-of-way, or drainage easements. And those are clearly spelled out in the amendment language.
Okay. Questions, committee? So I will be voting yes, but I will reserve my right. I just have a couple other questions after seeing some of these bullet points today, but I will take a motion.
So Madam Chair, I'll do a motion to amend and to pass.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second that, Madam Chair. And again, I'd like some more time. These are kind of fresh amendments. It's hard to absorb.
Right. Thank you, Senator Gokachia. A second from Senator Gokachia. Any discussion on the motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I will be supporting the motion. I just would like to reserve my right as well. I appreciate all the hard work Henderson and Senator Lang have done. I just still have a couple questions, but I will be supporting the motion. Just reserve my right for the floor.
Thank you very much. All right. With that, would the secretary please take a roll call vote?
Vice Chair Orenshaw,
Yes.
Senator Gokachia,
Yes.
Senator Neal,
Yes.
Senator Hansen,
Yes.
Chair Dondero Loop.
Yes. Thank you very much. Motion passes, and we'll give that floor statement to Senator Lang. And we will move on. Ms. Keller, will you please walk us through the next bill?
Lisa Keller, Committee Policy Analyst. The next bill is Senate Bill 254, revises provisions relating to discrimination in housing, sponsored by Senator Neal and heard by this committee on March 31st. Senate Bill 254 revises various provisions relating to discrimination in housing. Specifically, the bill establishes new procedures and requirements with respect to investigations and hearings regarding complaints to the Nevada Equal Rights Commission alleging an unlawful discriminatory practice in housing, and revises the prohibited practices that constitute an unlawful discriminatory practice in housing in Nevada. The bill prohibits, with certain exceptions, a person seeking to rent or lease a dwelling from inquiring into the arrest record, conviction record, or record of criminal history of an applicant or tenant, refusing to rent or lease to an applicant on the basis of the applicant's arrest record, conviction record, or record of criminal history, and making or publishing any notice or advertisement that indicates a preference based on the arrest, conviction, or criminal history record of the applicant. The bill also prohibits a person from refusing to allow a person with a disability to make reasonable modifications to a dwelling, provided they pay for the modifications, or make reasonable accommodation in rules, policies, practices, or services which may be necessary to afford a person with a disability equal opportunity to use and enjoy the property. 3 amendments have been proposed for the measure by Senator Neal. At the hearing, Senator Neal proposed the first conceptual amendment, which is included in the work session document. And subsequent to the hearing, Senator Neal proposed to delete Section 6 from that proposed amendment and replace it with the following language. A landlord shall not discriminate to deny, directly or indirectly, any individuals the full and equal enjoyment of housing, including the rental of a dwelling based on the tenant's source of income as defined in this chapter. Source of income is money or other benefits from any federal, state, or local government program or service limited to federal rental assistance funds adopted during the 116th or 117th Congress, received by the tenant during the COVID-19 pandemic, disability benefits, and child support. And the prohibitions in this chapter against discrimination based on source of income shall not limit the ability of any person to consider the sufficiency or sustainability of income or the credit rating of a renter, buyer, or loan applicant, so long as sufficiency or sustainability of income and the credit requirements are applied in a commercially reasonable manner. And the amendment also provides source of income that was created by federal rental assistance funds adopted during the 116th or 117th Congress, received by the tenant during the COVID-19 pandemic. This shall sunset on June 30th, 2022. And subsequent to the hearing, Senator Neal proposed the additional conceptual amendment, which is included in the work session document, to make additional changes to Section 33 of the bill. And staff has been notified that Senator Neal may have an additional amendment to propose.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Senator Neal.
Thank you. So after talking with some other stakeholders, the amendment is to make sure that the Section 33, well, it doesn't apply to manufactured housing. So I needed to add that in. Was just too much going on, but that is the addition. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions from the committee members? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we amend and do pass Senate Bill 254 with the amendments in the work session document and the amendment Senator Neal just mentioned to increase applicability of the bill to manufactured housing.
Okay, thank you. A second on that?
Second.
Second from Senator Neal. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Senator Hansen.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm going to be voting no. I think that I think people own property and want to rent out to other people, including people who have complexes, have a right and a responsibility to protect the people that are already there. And the idea that you can't ask about criminal history, I think is a mistake. Credit history is certainly a very reasonable thing that people should be able to find out. Source of income, things like that. I just think this goes way, way, way too far. So I'm going to have to be a no. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, sir. Additional comments? Yes, Senator Gocochea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I will vote for the motion at this point. But again, I'd love to see the bill all put together and in all the pieces. So I will reserve my right to vote no on the floor if I trust Ms. Neal, but I want to see it all in one package. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, any additional comments on the motion?
So
yes, Senator Neal.
So I will make comments. So I just want to, and I know what everybody's saying. So so the AB 317, which I added in entirety, was scaled back to the 3-4 paragraphs versus, and then I'm still working on trying to get that source of income scaled back to be very narrow. But the amendments really did deal with the criminal history and expanded the exemptions, meaning violent felons, other categories that I added in, arson, etc. And it does not include single family residences, which I just wanted to make sure that amendment got in from the Realtors Association.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to say that I'm still going to vote no, but I'll reserve my right to change after I see the whole bill.
Okay, perfect. Good job. All right. With that being said, would the secretary please call the roll?
Vice Chair Orenshaw,
Yes.
Senator Gorkachia,
Yes.
Senator Neal,
Yes.
Senator Hansen,
No.
Chair Dondero Loop.
Yes. And I will hand the floor statement to Senator Neal. All right, next is Ms. Keller. Walk us through the next bill, please. I believe we're at Senate Bill 283.
That is correct, Madam Chair. Elisa Keller, Committee Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 283 revises provisions relating to local governments, sponsored by Senator Brooks and heard by this committee on April 5th. Senate Bill 283 authorizes the governing body of a municipality to create a district for qualified improvement projects for energy efficiency, renewable energy, resiliency, or water efficiency if the governing body makes a finding that the creation of the district serves a public purpose, the governing body adopts by resolution certain procedures for the creation and administration of the district, and each owner on each tract on which a qualified improvement project will be located consents in writing to the location of the project, the levy of an assessment against the tract to pay the financing set forth in the financing agreement, and the placement of a lien on the property that has been filed by a capital provider. The bill also sets forth certain construction and financing requirements for a qualified improvement project. At the hearing, Senator Brooks proposed a conceptual amendment, and subsequent to the hearing, an additional conceptual amendment, which is included in the work session document, was proposed, along with an included summary of changes. And would the chair like me to walk the committee through the submitted amendment summary? It is my understanding Mr. Yaki is available.
Okay. Ms. Keller, I think we'll probably go to questions because the way this amendment is laid out with the highlighting, I think it's fairly clear. Doesn't mean there won't be questions, but I think you don't have to read through that. So with that being said, are there any questions from the committee, please? Okay, seeing none, then I would take a motion.
Amend and do pass.
Amend and do pass from Senator Neal. A second?
Second.
Second from Vice Chair Orenshaw. Any discussion on the motion? Yes, Senator Hansen.
I'm going to vote yes to get out of committee, but frankly, there's a lot of confusing things about the bill that as I read through it, I don't understand. I'll have to talk to Senator Brooks. Maybe he can straighten me out. But
okay.
It makes me a little uncomfortable, but I will support the measure at this point.
All right. Thank you very much. And with that, Senator Gorkachia.
I'm going to take the opposite tact. I will vote no and reserve my right to vote yes on the floor. This is just way too much. I know it's what we're dealing with, but
sure.
Through these amendments.
Totally understand. Totally understand. Thank you very much. And with that, we'll take roll call vote.
Vice Chair Orenshaw,
Yes.
Senator Gorkachia,
no.
Senator Neal,
Yes.
Senator Hansen,
Yes.
Chair Dondero Loop,
Yes. And with that, the motion passes, and we'll give the floor statement to Senator Brooks. All right. With that, we'll go to SB 302, please. Ms. Keller, when you're ready.
Elisa Keller, Committee Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 302 revises provisions relating to governmental administration, sponsored by Senator Spearman and heard by this committee on April 5th. Senate Bill 302 makes various changes relating to Racial equity. The bill creates the Minority Health and Equity Account and requires that any gift, grant, appropriation, or donation received by the Office of Minority Health and Equity be deposited in the account. The bill adds the promotion of racial equity to the purposes of the office. The advisory committee within the office must assist the Legislative Council in developing a racial equity worksheet that is designed to enable racial equity to be considered in developing bill draft requests and, to the extent money is available, develop and recommend strategies to promote racial equity in the state. The bill also declares that it is the policy of the state that persons employed by the state, to the extent practicable, reflect the age, gender, sexual, ethnic, and geographic diversity of the state, and requires that a public employer, to the extent money is available, provide diversity and racial equity training to each employee. Finally, the bill requires the Interim Finance Committee to make certain considerations regarding proposed revisions to work programs, gifts, grants, or expenditures related to a healthcare matter that disproportionately affects Black and Indigenous persons or other persons of color. No amendments were proposed.
Thank you very much. Questions from the committee?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Neal.
So, I mean, this is a hard vote for me because I understand where she's trying to go, but I also understand that the scope is super wide because Ms. Dortch is one person for the entire state, and there's no money in that office. And so I'm going to vote to get it out, but I'm really hoping that, the scope is, when she has more time to work the bill, she reduces that scope so it's actually manageable for the one person for the entire state.
Okay, thank you very much. Additional questions from the committee? Senator Goicoechea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm going to oppose the measure. I just don't see how this is even workable in any way, shape, or form. I realize the need, but I just don't see how we're going to get there with this bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Additional questions from the committee? Okay, I will entertain a motion.
To pass.
Thank you, Senator Neal. Second by Vice Chair Hornshaw. Any discussion on the motion? Yes, Senator Hansen.
I would just say ditto to what actually both senators said. I think that we're moving so far away from the idea of a colorblind society that we were all raised. That's the Martin Luther King idea. Judge people on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And we keep breaking more and more and more categories down. We should have a meritocracy. The idea that you're going to force a bunch of people to go through trainings like this bill would require in the private sector is just crazy. I mean, we're reaching the point of re-education camps for all the citizens of the United States. I'm a strong no.
Okay, thank you. With that, Ms. Keller, we will take a roll call vote.
Vice Chair Orenshaw.
Yes.
Senator Goicoechea.
No.
Senator Neal.
Yes.
Senator Hansen.
No.
Chair Dondero-Luke.
Yes. And with that, the motion passes, and I'll ask Senator Spearman to do the floor statement. Okay, with that, we'll move on to the next bill, Senate Bill 327.
Lisa Keller, Committee Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 327 revises provisions relating to discriminatory practices, sponsored by Senator Neal and heard by this committee on March 31st. Senate Bill 327 provides that race, for the purposes of prohibited discrimination, includes ancestry, color, ethnic group identification, ethnic background, and traits historically associated with race, including hair texture and certain hairstyles. The bill also sets forth certain requirements governing testing used by a city, county, or school district for a decision regarding the promotion of an employee and makes it a Category E felony to tamper with the test score of an employee. Finally, Senate Bill 327 revises provisions governing the authority of the Nevada Equal Rights Commission to investigate certain acts of discrimination against a person with regard to employment and revises provisions governing the procedures used by and notices given by the Commission. 2 conceptual amendments were proposed at the hearing by Senator Neal, and subsequent to the hearing, Senator Neal proposed an additional conceptual amendment, and the mock-up included in the work session document includes all amendments proposed. The amendment makes the following changes to the bill: provides that notwithstanding the protections for hair texture and protective hairstyles, an employer may enforce health and safety requirements set forth in federal or state law. Provides that protective hairstyles include natural hairstyles, afros, bantu knots, and curls. Deletes ancestry, color, ethnic group identification, ethnic background, and historically, to provide that race includes traits associated with race, including, without limitation, hair texture and protective hairstyles. Deletes Section 6 from the bill. Revises certain provisions in Section 7, 8, and 22 regarding employee testing, and provides that the provisions apply to vertical promotions and do not apply to a department with fewer than 200 employees. Provides in Section 16 that race discrimination includes the enforcement of a dress code or policy that requires school uniforms whereby a pupil's hair texture, hairstyle, including without limitation a protective hairstyle or other traits associated with race, violates the dress code or policy, and revises the effective date provisions in Section 26.
Thank you very much. Questions from the committee? Senator Hansen, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair. On that amendment that we just heard about dress codes, I'm sorry, I didn't follow it exactly. Are we talking about public schools or private businesses or, parochial schools? What did it apply to?
Senator Neal, please. So we're talking about public schools, right? We're not talking about, it doesn't cross into businesses. When it talks about uniform, it's talking about what's actually in the school district itself. And I want to make sure, like one of the amendments, I didn't hear it said that about the making sure that, so the rural counties are exempted from this in terms of the promotion practices. And then there was a test score amendment where about them, the employee and the employer getting the information at the same time and not getting it before the employer. I didn't hear that amendment.
Madam Chair, this is Heidi Clarkson with the Legal Division.
Go ahead, please.
Just to clarify, the language, there is language in sections 7, 8, and 22 of the bill that does specify that the third party that conducts the testing must send the employee's test score to the employee and the local government at the same time. And there is language that further deleted language from the introduced version of the bill that would have given an employee who is aggrieved by their test score the correct answer. So there are some additional changes that are included, and certainly if Senator Neal thinks we missed them, we can certainly fix that. But I believe the issues that she just raised are addressed in the mock-up.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure because they will be able to get the incorrect answers, but not the correct answers, which was causing consternation for the local governments. And that was what we worked out. And so I just wanted to make sure. But okay, not to step on you, Senator Hansen. I was just trying to make sure everything I agreed to with the local governments and the law enforcement were in.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Any other questions on Senate Bill 327? Senator Gocochea, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to Senator Neal. Now, the 100,000 population cap, that only pertains to schools, right? School districts.
Yeah, I didn't put that in I believe that language applies to the larger school districts, but if it's not in there, I will make that clarification. But the pop cap, there is no pop cap related to the promotions. What we did was, in order to exempt the rurals out, we did it by number of employees to take them out rather than put a pop cap in, if that makes sense.
And what section of the bill is that in?
That's in the 7 and 8.
Okay, I just digging through it here, trying to get.
Yeah, it's 7 and 8 where it was excluding the smaller counties based on department size, because typically they're smaller departments, so it wouldn't touch them. And then just bring in the larger cities by employee number.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Is that it? Okay, then. If there are no more questions, I will take a motion.
Chair, I move that we amend and do pass with the amendments that were just discussed.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll take a second. Second from Senator Neal. Any discussion on the motion? Yes, Senator Hansen.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm gonna be a no. I just think this goes too far. It is kind of interesting. I was thinking about it in Nevada history. The Chinese were discriminated against over their hairstyles. They used to have their long queues, and there were some open prejudices about that. So I'm sympathetic to the idea. I just think some of these grooming standards and stuff are actually beneficial. I think their evidences are very strong that in the public schools where they've actually implemented uniform policies and grooming policies, that academic performance goes up and discipline problems go down. So I think while I'm sympathetic to the idea of not discriminating against anybody based on hairstyles, pardon the bad pun at this point, but I think the bill goes a little too far, so I'm going to have to be a no. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's no more discussion on the motion, we'll take the roll call vote. Oh, Senator Gocochea, did you have a comment?
I'll make a quick comment. With the amendment, I think I can support the bill, and I thank the senator for bringing it forward. I wouldn't have gave you much for it in the initial hearing, so thank you. I will support the bill.
Okay, thank you very much.
This change on the floor.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll take the roll call vote.
Vice Chair Orenshaw,
Yes.
Senator Gocochea,
Yes.
Senator Neal,
Yes.
Senator Hansen,
No.
Chair Dondero Loop.
Yes. With that, the amendment passes, and Senator Neal, I'll give you the floor statement on that.
Okay, thanks.
And we'll do our last bill of work session, Senate Bill 360.
Lisa Keller, Committee Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 360 revises provisions relating to public employment, sponsored by the Senate Committee on Government Affairs, heard by this committee on April 5th. Senate Bill 360 makes certain changes to the membership of the Public Employees Retirement Board and the Board of the Public Employees Benefits Program. At the hearing, the attached consensus amendment was proposed. The amendment deletes Section 1 and to remove any changes to the Public Employees Retirement Board, and revises Section 2 of the bill to provide the governor must make appointments to the Board of the Public Employees Benefits Program as follows: 2 NSHE professional employee members from a list of 5 nominations submitted by the professional organization representing the largest number of professional employees of NSHE. 2 members retired from public employment from a list of 5 nominations submitted by the professional organizations representing the largest number of retired state employees, and 2 members who are classified employees from a list of 10 nominations submitted by the labor organization representing the largest number of classified state employees in the program.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Okay, with no questions from the committee, I'll take a motion.
I'm sure I move that we amend and do pass the amendments listed in the work session document.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Orenshaw. A second?
Second.
Second from Senator Neal. Any discussion on the motion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Orenshaw,
Yes.
Senator Goicoechea,
Yes.
Senator Neal,
Yes.
Senator Hansen,
Yes.
Chair Dondero Loop.
Yes. And with that, the motion passes, and I will take the floor statement. And if I can't do it, I'll ask Vice Chair Orenshaw to be my backup if for any reason something happens. Thank you very much. All right, with that, that completes our work session. Thank you for your patience. I'm going to hand the gavel over to Vice Chair Orenshaw so that I can get going on the last bill. And I will, just to let all of you know, just as a heads up, on Friday, we will be having a meeting, but I am going to be trying to schedule that at 1:32 earlier so that we can get ourselves done before 8 o'clock at night. So I'm going to see if I can do that without floor session. I'm guessing maybe I can get lucky. So keep that in mind, and I'll let you all know when that's going to happen. So Vice Chair Orenshaw, if you'll take the gavel, I'll get busy with this next bill.
Thank you very much, Chair Dondero Loop. I'd like to now open the hearing on Senate Bill 373. Thank you very much for being here to present, Chair Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Orenshaw. For the record, I'm Marilyn Dondero Loop, representing Senate District 8, Clark County, and I'm pleased to present Senate Bill 373 to the committee. Senate Bill 373 would establish collective bargaining rights for certain unclassified state employees, including the Nevada System of Higher Education, faculty, and professional staff. I am going to pass the presentation over to Dr. Kent Irvin and Professor Douglas Unger to provide additional details, and they will walk you through the bill. And so, Dr. Irvin and Professor Unger, when you're ready, please go ahead.
Thank you. Can you all hear me?
We can.
Yes,
okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Senator Dondero Loop, for sponsoring this bill, and Vice Chair Orenshaw and committee members. I am Kent Irvin, K-E-N-T ERVIN, representing the Nevada Faculty Alliance. The NFA is the independent professional organization of faculty at the colleges and universities of the Nevada System of Higher Education, affiliated with the American Association of University Professors. We represent faculty collective bargaining units at the College of Southern Nevada, Truckee Meadows Community College, and Western Nevada College. However, those bargaining units are structured under internal regulations of the Board of Regents, which are very limited and do not provide the protections afforded to other public employees in Nevada under NRS 288, the Government Employees Management Relations Act. A better defined process and statute provided by SB 373 will enable us to expeditiously bargain in the best interest of our institutions and students. SB 373 creates a new section of NRS 288, the Government Employee Management Relations Act, that is applicable to unclassified state professional employees, primarily NC faculty and their professional organizations. It has been drafted to avoid interfering with the separate NRS 288 sections for local government employees and classified employees. SB 373 will make labor law for public employees more consistent over all branches of state government. SB 373 closely follows the collective bargaining statutes already established in 288 for state classified employees as it enacted in SB 135 of the 2019 session, with some clarifications needed for higher education, including, for example, shared governance and academic freedom as mandatory items in negotiation. For formation of bargaining units, SB 373 uses the community of interest standard that is similar to the local government employees section of NRS 288, which allows flexibility for unclassified professional employees to negotiate with their employers on appropriate bargaining groups. SB 373 will allow our professional employees and their organizations to access the Government Employees Management Relations Board, EMRB, for efficient and rapid resolution of disputes. And finally, the mediation and arbitration processes for grievances and negotiation would follow 288 for state employees. Although the Board of Regents has granted limited collective bargaining rights for faculty for about 30 years, I think, it's through NSHE internal regulations. And this means that one party, the Board of Regents, our management, writes and interprets the rules of engagement. SB 373 will provide a level playing field. The three NSHE campuses, CSN, TMCC, and WNC, that currently have collective bargaining units represented by NFA would retain those bargaining units and their contracts until a new contract is negotiated under the new law. Collective bargaining provides a collaborative opportunity and framework for higher education faculty to work with their administrations to achieve institutional goals. Research suggests that collaboration between faculty unions and college administrations can increase student success and retention and increase institutional efficiency. We have submitted a fact sheet with references to those studies. I will pause there for Professor Douglas Unger to make a brief statement before diving into any details of the bill as desired by the committee.
Thank you very much, Dr. Irvin. Dr. Unger, please go ahead whenever you'd like to start.
Good evening, and thank you to Chair Dondero Loop and Vice Chair Orenthal and members of the committee for your consideration and service. Most people think of collective bargaining for faculty primarily as something to address salaries and benefits, but I consider SB 373 to be more useful as a tool to provide balanced and just mediations of personnel issues, a correction to the failed grievance process within our institutions, and a means to assure workplace rights for the increasing numbers of non-tenured administrative faculty in residence, lecturers, and part-time teachers on which higher education in our state increasingly relies. The passage of SB 373 would improve hiring and retention by adding to workplace stability and security. The existing form of collective bargaining permitted by Title IV, Chapter 4 of the Board of Regents Handbook is imbalanced because NSHE sets the rules. Colleges and universities tend to negotiate from a medieval model within which regents, the chancellor, presidents, provosts, and deans exercise a nearly absolute authority by design. In Nevada, the periodic tensions between the legislature and the Board of Regents historically have either increased or relaxed, depending on the exercise of a similar power as defined by our state constitution. For faculty, the passage of collective bargaining will help democratize that authority. The 18th century economist Adam Smith, a foundational theorist for the free market economy, suggests in The Wealth of Nations that the freedom of markets must be balanced by the freedom of labor to make contracts. higher education faculty now constitute the largest group of state employees in Nevada without support in law or collective bargaining, so are being denied the freedom of contract on which the economy and a healthy higher education system ultimately depend. At the same time, we view this landmark legislation as unifying and not conflictive, as collaborative and not confrontational. Within this kind of collective bargaining model, subject to the checks and balances by the executive branch of government, faculty and administrations are urged and encouraged to work together and will remain devoted to our mission to educate students and provide wellsprings of opportunity. Passage of SB 373 offers a happier and more sustainable vision for the future of higher education in our state. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Unger. Chair Dondero Loop, is there anyone else you'd like me to go to for your presentation? Or
I have a little more.
Dr. Irvin, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Vice Chair. Roughly 90% of the bill is taken verbatim from other statutes, and mostly in 288, mostly the state classified sections, but some parts selected from the local government union sections where it made sense for unclassified state employees. Because the bill is lengthy, we have submitted a written section-by-section description along with the references to those statutes from which the language was adopted. So I am prepared to describe the major sections of the bill in whatever detail you like, but I can also simply address a couple of the major points, how the bill is structured. What's your pleasure?
Well, Chair Dondero Loop, would it be all right if Dr. Irvin just highlighted some of the major points, and then if members have any additional questions, they can dive in and ask about those particular areas?
Yes, that would be my suggestion as well. So thank you very much.
Okay,
thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair and Senator Dondero Loop, Chair Dondero Loop. So I'll first draw your attention to the structure of the bill. There are, of course, some sections that are just conforming language, but sections 8 to 49 are the meat of the bill, and they're structured as a separate subhead of what they call a subhead of NRS 288, which means the definitions within that section only apply to that section. And so where we make various definitions of arbitration, collective, exclusive representation, and so forth, even though most of those definitions are identical to other parts of NRS, they only apply here. On page 8 and section 15 is really the key section I want to talk about, because that's where the employees that are subject to this bill are described. Subsection 1 of section 15 says that the bill applies to unclassified state employees and other state employees who are not paid according to the classified employee pay schedule. So that excludes state classified employees, which are the majority of state employees, but it includes NSHE faculty and adjunct faculty and instructors who are hired on a semester-by-semester basis and aren't technically, or at least within NSHE, considered unclassified employees. So we wanted to capture those. And then subsection 2 of section 15 has a laundry list of exclusions, just to make really clear who we mean to cover. And some of these are redundant. For example, it explicitly excludes local government employees. It explicitly excludes state classified employees and PERS employees paid under the classified pay section. Also, it excludes managerial employees in section 2H, subsection 2H, and confidential employees. Those are employees who, like an executive assistant to an administrator, has confidential knowledge and shouldn't be part of a bargaining unit. It also excludes explicitly appeals officers in the Division of Administration in 2G, and that's because they are appointed directly by the governor and are sort of special. The remaining unclassified state employees, and looking through the biennial pay bill, most would be excluded because they are managerial employees or confidential employees. That leaves, besides employees at NSHE, at the Nevada System of Higher Education, that leaves just a few technical specialists, field employees, inspectors who are unclassified employees but aren't defined as managerial employees. Our assumption is that there aren't very many of those in most cases, and they haven't expressed interest in organizing, with one exception, and that is inspectors of the Gaming Control Board I became aware of, and they are the topic of SB 286, which has been brought up. And I just point that out because if our bill, SB 373 and SB 286, were both to pass, there would need to be some harmonizing language to put that particular group of employees in the right place. I'll also note that the professional employee here, which is defined in this section, has a different meaning in one section of the classified staff section where it applies professional classified employees who are have characteristics of professional employees, but they are classified employees and defined in a bargaining unit. But that definition only applies in NRS 288.515, and our definition of professional employees only applies in our subhead. So much of the rest of the bill is, like I said, verbatim. I did want to go over who is a professional employee subject to this bill, so that was very clear. We did take, so one difference from the classified employees where they defined bargaining units in the statute. We chose to follow the local government model of the community of interest standard for forming bargaining units. What that means at NSHE is that depending on the campus culture, we would expect academic faculty to be a bargaining unit and administrative faculty to be probably another bargaining unit, although at certain campuses they could be combined, as they are now at Truckee Meadows Community College, into one bargaining unit, and this provides that flexibility. So I will pause there, I think, and see if there are questions about those things or other parts of the bill.
Members, any questions for Dr. Irvin? Senator Hansen.
Thanks. The question I have is for anybody. The imbalance that you talk about, the real problem with collective bargaining between NSHE, for example, and the Board of Regents, there's a complete imbalance in that the people actually pay the bill, the taxpayers, pretty much not represented. I mean, I guess you could in theory say that the Board of Regents, because they're elected, do, but it's a classic problem very consistently all across the situation where you have government agencies essentially doing collective bargaining with other government agencies. So got some real issues with it. And I must say, too, that if anybody goes on the Nevada Policy Research Institute website and looks at the salaries and benefit packages for the people in Nevada System of Higher Ed, they're not going to be terribly sympathetic to the idea that you guys are somehow left out of the collective bargaining process. So how do you guys justify the imbalance on the taxpayer side of the equation?
Thank you for the question, Vice Chair Orenshaw, to Senator Hansen.
May I answer that?
And you can go directly to the,
okay.
So you don't have to go through the chair.
Well, I'll start off, Professor Unger, and then let you follow up, perhaps. This bill follows the model from SB 135 from the 2019 session. And what that means is that any appropriation that is required by a collective bargaining unit would go first to the Board of Regents. They would have to put it into the regular budget process. And then this gives the governor of the state the full authority to either put that in the executive budget or not. And then the legislature, the elected people, elected representatives of the people, ultimately determine any appropriation based of a collective bargaining. So that's the check and balances. Not only do we have a elected Board of Regents, but an elected legislature to make those decisions about funding.
Dr. Kent, if I could, I like that concept, but approximately half of the people that are elected officials actually have some direct financial tie to the government. We have a lawsuit about that, I believe, right now about whether or not you can serve in more than one branch of government at the same time. So that theory on the check part of it doesn't seem to fly when you realize that the legislative portion of it, half of them typically are on the government payroll. And therefore, they have, in my opinion, a vested interest in protecting those collective bargaining rights for other members of government who are also collectively bargaining.
And I believe Dr. Unger had a reply or wanted to add.
Well, I just wanted to point out the economic advantages of collective bargaining as one looks at it nationwide. At campuses that have collective bargaining, there's, and pardon me for reading from figures here, but there is a savings of $13,500 in core expenses per degree awarded, and an additional 1.2 degrees awarded per 100 students enrolled. It increases the efficiency of the institution because it increases retention. And whenever you do a hire at an R1 university, or I don't know what the cost is at a community college, but the R1 universities, a search will cost anything from $35,000 to $50,000 if you really crunch the numbers. And the constant turnover because of workplace issues. And I'm not talking about salaries and benefits. I'm talking about a broken system for being able to deal with personnel issues and other issues on a university campus. If you have collective bargaining in place, it increases retention, therefore it increases efficiencies for the taxpayer. It eventually ends up costing less because everything is much more predictable. I'd also like to direct Senator Hansen to the website of Oregon State University that just completed a collective bargaining agreement. I know you're all very busy, but if you took the time to look at the link of a collective bargaining agreement that was just finished in June 2020, you would look at the base salaries there and understand that we're talking about minimum salaries being established by most collective bargaining institutions rather than any kind of accelerated salary increase that I think you're thinking of from maybe some private sector examples. Collective bargaining in higher education actually works to increase efficiencies and lower the cost to taxpayers.
Oh, Mr. Unger,
thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, can I have a follow-up?
Please go ahead.
I have attempted several times since I've been a legislator to try to get some level of auditing on NSHE, and the Board of Regents aggressively fought me, as did hire all the people from the chancellor on down. So as far as efficiencies, I would love to have an opportunity to have a true audit of the system of higher ed and see whether or not your theory is correct, Mr. Unger. Simply put, I think that one of the things that's totally lacking in Nevada state government has been financial oversight of the system of higher ed. And so I'm very uncomfortable with this. And while it's nice to say that maybe it'll improve the efficiency, the ultimate efficiency I'd like to see is simply to have some kind of audit to see where we are now. And then you have a baseline to really start and see whether or not we go forward or not. So thank you. I've taken up too much time as is. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you very much, Senator Hansen. Members, any additional questions for the presenters? Senator Neal.
Thanks, Vice Chair. So I had a question on, I think it's section 36, but it's sub 3A. Trying to get the line. It's the language where you give the hierarchy, where basically it says this is if anything is in conflict, and then you give policy, procedure, or reg. And so the way I initially read it when I saw the hierarchy, I mean, it's kind of like wouldn't reg trump a policy?
Okay, thank you, Senator Neal, for the question. I'm looking at section 36, subsection 3, where it says if there is a conflict between any provision of a collective bargaining agreement between the employer and the bargaining unit, that the way I read A, and this language is directly from NRS 288 now from the state classified section, but it says that the collective bargaining agreement prevails over the policies or procedures of regulation. For us, that would be NC code adopted by the Board of Regents or any institutional policies or bylaws. So a collective bargaining agreement, once agreed by both parties, would supersede those internal regulations.
Okay.
That answer the question?
Yeah, I was just trying to see what that hierarchy was, try to get an understanding there. And
okay.
Yeah. So, all right. Thanks.
Any follow-up, Senator Neal?
No.
One question I have is, would the collective bargaining agreement, if this passes, take into account issues like, academic freedom, or whether a professor is, whether there's bullying or harassment in a department or a college, because I know sometimes that can make good professors leave institutions. Would it try to make sure that there are more fair outcomes in that kind of situation?
Thank you for the question, Vice Chair Orenshaw. Yes, it would. For professional employees, faculty in particular, the salaries are pretty much set by the marketplace. So this really isn't about salaries. It's only about salaries maybe at the level of minimum incoming salaries or our adjunct faculty and others who are really poorly paid and deserve a lot more. But what it does, we explicitly have in here in the language that shared governance, procedures, and academic freedom are mandatory items of negotiation within the bargaining agreement, as well as setting up procedures for grievances. And that's where we see really the major crux of this bill that will be able to, by negotiating and working on those policies and how those procedures work, that will be able to make improvements.
Thank you, Dr. Irvin. Members, any additional questions for Chair Dondero-Loop, Dr. Irvin, or Dr. Unger?
Can I just ask one quick thing?
Please go ahead, Senator Neal.
Dr. Kent and Unger, you guys have been working on this for a while. What do you estimate the cost of this being to have this funded?
Thank you for the question, Senator Neal. The only direct cost is the fee, and I'd have to find the section, to the that's required to fund the Employee Management Relations Board. That's section 49. And this is a fee that now is currently charged on all local government union employees and all state classified employees. And the statutes say up to $10, but it's been less than that. I don't know if EMBRB is listening, can come on later or not, but it's up to $10 maximum. It's been $4 to $6 typically is the fee that's charged. In our bill, because we don't expect all of our institutions to organize anytime soon, the language was changed a little bit to apply just to employees who are in bargaining units who have an exclusive representative. Right now, there are 900 of those at the 3 community colleges, so a $10 fee would be $9,000 a year. If all of the faculty organized, that's 6,200, so 62,000 a year. That's the only direct fee. Now, you could folks argue that collective bargaining agreements are expensive, but that's not in a bill because any collective bargaining agreement has to be agreed to on both sides in the future. So the statute itself that allow collective bargaining do not have a fiscal note because of that.
Dr. Unger, I believe, Dr. Unger?
Yes, thank you. And Doug Unger, for the record, I was the chair of the Council of Faculty Senate Chairs for the state and vice chair, chair, and past chair of the UNLV Faculty Senate. When I was in this role, I watched needless lawsuits between faculty members and NSHE, and I would like to point out for the record how much money this collective bargaining bill could save the system and the state in needless litigation because of the mediation provisions that are there, which are really the heart of the bill, providing these alternate mediations and arbitration mechanisms that will avoid lawsuits and avoid the kind of lawsuits that were really tragic that I witnessed when I was in that state role and watched hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees go down the tubes for years. Often these cases would last. I believe that a majority of those would be avoided, and therefore whatever $9,000 to $62,000 cost of collective bargaining would be saved with even the elimination of one litigation by the mediation provisions of this collective bargaining bill. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And I can certainly attest to that. From about a century ago when I was an undergrad at UNLV, I think I had a math professor and an economics professor who were both involved in very, very highly publicized litigation with the institution, which would be great if that could be avoided in the future through mediation or through the agreement. Members, any additional questions for our presenters? Right, not seeing any additional questions. Senator Gokachia.
And I'm going to ask a question, and it's probably way out there, and I should know the answer, but I don't. All right, presently, collective bargaining for state employees is at the purview of the governor. What's this bill do to that?
Thank you for the question, Senator Gokachia. So in the sections for classified staff, a collective bargaining agreement is negotiated between the executive department and the bargaining units. If that requires an appropriation, the governor has full authority to either ask for that appropriation from the legislature or not. The difference in this bill, and I'm not going to find the section right here, but is, of course, for us, it would go first to the Board of Regents, and then the Board of Regents makes the request through the budget process. And then still the governor has the full authority to either approve that, put that in the executive budget or not.
A follow-up, if I may, Mr. Vice Chair.
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
This does not give the Board of Regents the ability to say, no, the funding isn't available, like it does with state employees.
Thank you. And, you know, I had a note here that I'm supposed to be saying my name every time, and I realized that I have totally failed in that. So thank you. This is Kent Irvin, NFA, for the record.
Hopefully the chair didn't, because I was supposed to be catching that. Sorry about
that. Well, you know, we're negotiating with the institution. That agreement has to first, sorry, I missed this step. Any agreement, collective bargaining agreement, is first negotiated between the bargaining unit and typically the institution. And then it has to be approved by the Board of Regents at a public meeting. So that's when the Board of Regents would decide, yes, we can agree to this collective bargaining agreement or not. But once they agree to it, if it requires money that can only be obtained from the state, now NSHE isn't fully state funded, it's state and student and grant funded and so forth. But to the extent that it requires an appropriation, that goes through this process I mentioned, that they would put it in the budget and then it could be approved or not in the executive budget.
But again, if I may, Mr. Vice Chair, one last question. But then when you are bargaining with the local institution, again, if you don't reach, if you don't have success, then you can, in fact, send it over to the Employee Management Relation Board, I mean, and end up in arbitration even at that level then with this bill, correct?
Even with the arbitration around contract issues, the governor and legislature have full authority to appropriate or not appropriate.
Thank you, Dr. Irvin. Any further questions, Senator Gocochea? And thank you. Members, any additional questions for our presenters? Not seeing any additional questions, I'd like to go to testimony in support of broadcasting. If there's anyone on the phone lines who'd like to speak in support of the measure, we're allotting 2 minutes per caller.
Thank you, Vice Chair. To testify in support, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, to testify in support of SB 373, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 023, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good evening, Vice Chair, and the committee. For the record, Matthew Snellwarre, MATHEWSUNILVARRE. I'm a doctoral student and graduate assistant at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and also the treasurer of the Graduate and Professional Student Association here at UNLV. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity, and I'm here to testify my support for Senate Bill 373. Collective bargaining rates for faculty, if established by the passage of SB 373, will improve higher education for all in the state of Nevada. With the successful passage of SB 135 in previous legislation, NC faculty are only one of the largest group of employees without collective bargaining rights. Collective bargaining rights will allow UNLV to recruit and retain the best of the faculty, as the group will have stronger voice in negotiating salaries and benefits, but also managing workload, as well as reducing costs of faculty recruitment and attrition. The bill also would allow formation of bargaining units for part-time instructors and graduate assistants like me, which would allow them to allow the university to provide stipend to attract passionate and motivated graduate students. As Dr. Dagangar mentioned previously, faculty unionization will help with improved faculty governance and improve student retention. Based on a previous study, also there will be reduced costs, but also increasing degree completion by students, which might offset any increases that might happen with recruiting or retaining researchers as faculty. The ability to recruit and retain top faculty and graduate students is very important for UNLV and our sister university UNR to maintain their distinguished top-tier R1 status. In summary, passage of SB 373 with all the aforementioned benefits to both faculty and students in the state of Nevada will lead to improvements in quality of higher education in a fiscally responsible manner. I respectfully urge members of the Senate to support in favor of this bill. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 486, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, good evening. Alexander Marks, ALEX, MARKS, with the Nevada State Education Association, the voice of Nevada educators for over 120 years. NSEA supports SB 373 to extend collective bargaining to higher education employees in Nevada. Collective bargaining in mutual exchange of positions followed by agreement enables a group of employees with a community interest to negotiate a binding written contract with an employer. It gives workers a voice in their workplace and has become a respected approach valued by employees and employers in the private sector and throughout various levels of government. Effective bargaining is based on ideals that resonate with both workers and employers, such as working together to solve problems and treating each other with respect. Parties can exchange a frank view of their constituents, and they explore and resolve the issues being bargained. When labor and management can come to an agreement on salary and benefits while also improving services delivered, everyone benefits. Meanwhile, collective bargaining is the most proven system for improving labor standards and quality of life for working people, delivering higher wages, benefits like health care and retirement, and safe and healthy workplaces. NSEA believes extending collective bargaining rights to employees in higher education will allow for a stronger collective voice when discussing important policies such as training, compensation, working conditions, and diversity in the workplace. We encourage its passage. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits of 499. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
This is Carter Bundy with AFSME, CARTERBUNDY, for the record. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, we fully support SB 373. Our concern was we didn't want any ambiguity about the definitions because there are some similar terms in the state employee collective bargaining law, but I believe Professor Irvin and Dr. Unger have taken care of that with this drafting in LCB, of course. Collective bargaining is something that just gives workers a seat at the table. There are all kinds of financial protections and layers that it has to go through, of course, including the governor and the legislature, so that we hope that you will give these workers the ability to bargain just like you did state employees 2 years ago. Thank you so much.
Caller with the last three digits of 338. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. This is Priscilla Maloney with the AFSCME 4041 retiree chapter, and would simply like to say a ditto to everything that's been said by the Nevada Faculty Alliance, Dr. Irvin, Dr. Unger, and then most recently Carter Bundy from AFSCME International. Again, our position at AFSCME is that collective bargaining encourages and promotes mediative type dialogues between employee and employer, and that is always a good thing. I especially note that in my experience as a labor representative for AFSCME 4041 years ago, I can promise you that the efficacy of getting people to the table in an equal position of dialogue absolutely can reduce conflicts that, as Dr. Unger pointed out, can unfortunately sometimes lead to litigation. So the AFSCME retirees are very grateful to all the work that the Nevada Faculty Alliance and Dr. Irvin and Dr. Unger have done to bring this bill forward. And we thank Senator Don Darrell Loop for being the sponsor of this bill. And so we support SB 373 wholeheartedly and look forward to welcoming the affected employees in the bill to the labor family. Thank you.
We are currently taking testimony in support of SB 373. To testify in support, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you very much. Broadcasting, if we can now go to anyone on the phone lines who would like to speak in opposition to the measure, we're allotting 2 minutes per.
To testify in opposition of SB 373, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits of 124, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good evening, Vice Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Paul Moratkin, MORADKHAN, with the Vegas Chamber. As many of you know, the Chamber has expressed significant concerns over the years about the expansion of collective bargaining at the state level from the taxpayer perspective. It has been a long-standing position for the organization, and we did oppose SB 135 in the 2019 legislative session. Our concerns are based on the financial impact that it would have on the state's budget and the strain that it would place on the state's limited resources by expanding collective bargaining for professional employees as it relates to Nevada system of higher education. Thank you for your time and consideration this evening. Thank you.
If you recently just joined us, we are currently in opposition of SB 373. To testify in opposition, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 662. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Yes. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Risa Lieberwitz, RISALIEBERWITZ. I am hoping that there was some technical problem here with my phone, and I am speaking in support of SB 373. I hope that I will be able to do that at this point. So I will go ahead with the. Yes, thank you. As I said, my name is Risa Lieberwitz. I am the General Counsel of the American Association of University Professors, the AAUP. I'm also a professor of labor and employment law in the Cornell University School of Industrial and Labor Relations. The AAUP supports SB 373, which creates a strong and stable structure of collective bargaining in state higher education institutions. AAUP's mission is to advance academic freedom, economic security, and faculty governance, all of which promote higher education for the common good. The AAUP has 45,000 members with chapters on nearly 600 campuses. These include more than 80 local unionized AAUB chapters, most of which are in state universities. Shared governance, such as faculty senates, is an effective means for collective faculty participation in university governance, including the protection of academic freedom, economic security, and other values of the academic profession. Additionally, for 5 decades, collective bargaining has been an important and effective means to further these values, which are essential to fulfilling the public mission of higher education. Collective bargaining brings many benefits to higher education institutions. At the bargaining table, the union and the university administration can build positive relationships through discussions of priorities, areas of common interest, and issues where they bring different perspectives. Thus, collective bargaining builds on the long history of shared governance in higher education. Senate Bill 373 recognizes the importance of both collective bargaining and shared governance as effective means to build a positive administration-faculty relationship, which will enhance the ability of higher education to fulfill its public mission and to advance the common good. And so again, the AAUP strongly supports SB 373, which creates a strong and stable structure of collective bargaining in state higher education institutions. Thank you very much.
Again, if you've recently joined us, we are currently in opposition of SB 373. To testify in opposition, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 237. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good evening, committee. My name is Marlene Lockard, representing SEIU 1107, and I too had technical difficulties and am calling in support. And I would just like to say ditto to the support testimony that's been given. Thank you.
Chair, you have no more callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you very much. And broadcasting, I wonder if we can now go to neutral. Whoever would like to speak neutral on the measure, we're allotting 2 minutes per caller.
To testify neutral on SB 373, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 139. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good
afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Laura Rich, Executive Officer of the Public Employees Benefits Program. I am testifying in a neutral position today as the board or PEB board has not had an opportunity to weigh in and take a position on this bill until it meets tomorrow. However, I do want to put on the record that contrary to today's testimony, PEB has placed a significant fiscal note, over $2 million for the biennium alone on this bill, due to Section 32, which adds insurance and healthcare benefits to collective bargaining. PEB is not sufficiently equipped with proper staffing, expertise, IT system abilities, or even existing contracts to be able to administer different variations of health insurance benefits to various labor groups. The customization of plan design for each professional group would lead to greater costs and potentially reduced savings because of PEB's inability to leverage volume through a single population. Most importantly, the state subsidy contribution, which makes up over 90% of the cost of the employee health care, is paid by every participating PEB agency, requires legislative approval through PEB's budget. And although this was not factored into PEB's fiscal note, it is anticipated that the inclusion of health insurance benefits in collective bargaining will increase the overall cost to the state. Lastly, the language in this bill appears to create conflict with NRS 287.043, which provides the PEB board with the power and authority to develop and establish health insurance benefits, as well as ensure the program is funded on an actuarially sound basis. Incorporating health insurance into collective bargaining nearly removes the relevance and necessity of the board. I thank the committee for the opportunity to speak on this bill and urge that PEB be included in discussions moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Caller with the last three digits of 059, please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Laura Freed, Laurafreed. I serve as the Director of the Department of Administration. And I am testifying in the neutral position this evening because my department is the one that organizes the collective bargaining effort under current law. And so in our analysis of this bill, what we noticed is that the bill adds numerous subjects to mandatory bargaining. This includes, these are subjects not in current law added under this bill: maternity, paternity leave, family medical leave, insurance, including health insurance, classification and titles of professional employees, safety in the workplace, academic freedom for faculty, shared governance in academic institutions, faculty tenure, transfer and reassignment of professional employees, and procedures for reductions in force. And on that last one, I would note that under current law, that's specified as a management right. So because there are a lot of mandatory subjects added pursuant to this bill, this complicates the Department of Administration and collaboration with NSHE and with PEB to gain the expertise to bargain these new subjects, which our small but mighty central bargaining team does not currently have. And so I know that Senator Neal asked about fiscal notes. The Department of Administration also has submitted a fiscal note to the LCB that is not currently in Nellis. And it totals just over $1 million in the upcoming biennium. So I just wanted to put that on the record so that you would note that we kind of face a need to really increase the expertise from what we have been doing with the bargaining processes that we're engaged in right now. Thank you very much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, caller. Caller with the last three digits of 057. Please slowly spell and state your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last three digits of 057. Please press *6 now to unmute yourself. We will try one more time. Caller with the last 3 digits of 057, please press *6 now to unmute yourself.
Good evening. My name is Joe Reynolds, JoeReynolds, and I'm the Chief Legal Counsel for the Nevada System of Higher Education. I'm here today to testify that we are currently neutral on SB 373. We appreciate the NFA for their cooperation and communication. The Board of Regents already provides procedures for faculty to form collective bargaining units at NSHE institutions and to engage in negotiations. We're still reviewing this complex bill and do have questions about its scope, reach into board governance over personnel matters, and costs. We look forward to having further dialogue with the NFA and Chair Dondero to better understand the bill and its provisions. Thank you.
Vice Chair, you have no more callers neutral at this time.
Thank you, Broadcasting. And I know a couple of callers had technical difficulties. Just to be safe, would Broadcasting be able to make sure there's nobody hanging out either in support, opposition, or neutral that didn't get to testify?
Absolutely, Vice Chair. I will make another announcement. Anyone who is currently on the line, if you would like to testify either in neutral, support, or opposition of SB 373 and you had technical difficulties, please press *9 on your phone now to testify. Again, that's *9. Chair, your public line is currently open and working and you have no callers at this time.
Thank you very much, Broadcasting. I'd like to bring it back to the presenters. Chair Dondero-Loop, Dr. Unger, Dr. Irvin, any closing remarks you'd like to make?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Orangshall. So I'm a little surprised because those are the first times I've heard from PEB or the Department of Administration about a fiscal note on the bill. So, but of course, this is the policy committee, and we'll be interested in actually seeing what those fiscal notes are. Regarding NSHE's possible fiscal impact, because NSHE already has collective bargaining within its own code. There's no new administrative structure because it's already allowed under NSHE code. And then there are just a very small number of unclassified state employees that would be subject to this bill. So it's hard to understand how those numbers come about. Finally, we'll continue to have discussions that have started with NSHE regarding some concerns they've expressed. And if there's something we can do in the bill in the next day to fix some issues there, we'll bring that to Senator Dondero-Loop. And I became aware today or this afternoon of one little small wording change that probably needs to be done. So we'll bring that back before work session. But overall, I would like to thank Senator Dondero-Loop for sponsoring the bill, and you, Vice Chair Orangshall, and committee members for your consideration, as well as our thank you. I'm glad our national representative from the American Association of University Professors did get in, and it's quite late on the East Coast, although thankfully this is getting over early compared to our hearing last session, which was at 11 p.m. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Chair Dondero-Loop, Dr. Irvin, and Dr. Unger. And yes, as you noted, the Senate Government Affairs Committee is a policy committee, not a fiscal committee. Those issues regarding fiscal notes will be handled somewhere else. I will now close the hearing on the measure, and I'll hand the gavel back over to Chair Dondero-Loop. I think there's one item left on the agenda, Chair.
There is, Vice Chair, and thank you so much for your time. The last item on the agenda is public comment. So Broadcasting, if you would like to go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to speak in public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, that's *9. Chair, your public line is open and working, and you have no callers at this time.
All right. I think probably we've been here long enough that everybody who's had a chance to weigh in has weighed in. So with that broadcasting, I thank you very much. And I thank you, committee members. I don't know when we will be able to meet on Friday, but I'm going to see if we can do it before 3:30. No promises, but I will let all of you know if that happens. We have to sort of juggle all the members in every committee. So thank you very much. And we'll see you all Friday at some point. And with that, we'll close and adjourn and have a good evening. Thank you.